Chapter 856. Before the future, there were only so many factions. The first was naturally the heavenly court, and the second was the underworld. The heavenly court was in charge of the overall situation, while the underworld controlled reincarnation. The lord of the underworld was a subject of the emperor of heaven, but he could also be considered a powerful, feudal lord. There were countless experts in the underworld, but they had yet to appear. Zhuge was already prepared. The lord of the underworld was called the king of hell, also known as the lord of samsara. His strength could be on the same level as the lord of sun and moon in the future. He could not be underestimated. Moreover, there were many experts similar to the heavenly kings under him, also known as the king of hell. Compared to the heavenly kings, they were at most slightly weaker. These were also the future enemies of the calming deities department. The underworld would definitely support the heavenly court and submit to the emperor of heaven. The underworld was the most cunning and sinister in the future. He did not know who the lord of the underworld was, so Zhuge had to be careful. At this time, Gu Chansha was already inside the divine land gourd, refining and merging primeval dragon gate. The great spirit god is missing? Gu Chansha frowned. He realized that some of the 3,000 true gods had disappeared, such as the great spirit god, the chaotic demonic god Ape, and god Maha. They were not in primeval dragon gate, and they seemed to have cut off their connection with primeval dragon gate. However, there were still more than 2,000 true gods in the depths of primeval dragon gate. These true gods were living in independent god nations. When they realized that they were imprisoned and could not leave, they were all shocked. Everyone, I am the head of the calming deities department, Gu Chansha. I have already killed the heavenly king of Gene Men. Now, primeval dragon gate has been devoured by me. If you are obedient and submit to the calming deities department, I guarantee that you will be fine. If you do not submit, you will be stripped of your true god status and reduced to mortals. Gu Chenches will instantly swept through the many god nations. All the gods in the god nations gathered and saw Gu Chansha in the core of primeval dragon gate. It really is you, Gu Chansha. A true deity walked out. Her entire body was made of jade, and she was a woman. She was a jade deity, and she was originally an ancestor of precious jade country. Because she had cooperated with an ancient emperor to quell a rebellion, she was conferred the title of a true deity by the ancient emperor. So it's you, jade deity. Your descendants have all joined the calming immortal department. They're all at the saint and god level. That's especially true of Frosty Jadu and Yuhuan Lu. She's already reached the 34 Tao realm transformations and will soon reach the peak of the 36 transformations. She'll soon become an Empyrean, and it won't be difficult for her to surpass your ancestor. Jade deity's cultivation was only at the peak of the 36 transformations, so it would be extremely difficult for him to break through to the celestial lord level. Even if one became a true deity, wanting to break through to the Empyrean realm also required tremendous lucky chances. The advantage of a true god was that their lifespan was 10 times longer than ordinary gods and sages. Generally speaking, once one reached the god level, their lifespan would be 10,000 years. Sages would be slightly longer, but even the longest sage would not exceed 20,000 years. True gods basically had a lifespan of 100,000 years. With such a long lifespan, one would have a terrifying accumulation and deep comprehension. One would have a higher chance of breaking through to the Empyrean realm. But out of the true gods, only the great spirit god, god Maha, and chaotic world demon god Ape had reached the Empyrean realm. Apart from them, there was no one else. Of course, he was also at the 36 transformations of the Tao realm. He had the true god realm and was much stronger than normal sages. True gods had long lifespans, strong combat strength, and many methods. I was coerced by Sect Gene King. Now that he was killed, naturally, I will join you. I hope to borrow your strength to break through to the Empyrean realm. Jade deity said, dragon deity, seed deity, fish deity, shark deity, whale deity, treasure deity, wind deity, and rain deity. We are of the same breath and branch. We are bound together for good or bad. My suggestion is to stop hesitating. If you hesitate, then all of you will lose all your god positions. We are willing to join you. Jade deity and the other true gods all submitted. Among the 3,000 true gods, there were also many groups. In the long years of the past, the battles between true gods were also very intense. Naturally, they would form factions. There were even many true gods who fell in the battles, such as Longevity God, the ancient Five Seasons God, and Hercules God. Seeing Jade deity's group submit, the other true gods knew that they had no way to fight Guchansha in terms of strength. They all knelt down and worshipped him. Lightning God, Water God, Dark Emperor, and the others have all disappeared. There is also Hell Snake and Sun-Swallowing Bash. The Great Spirit God, Maha, and Chaotic World Demon God Ape have all cut off their priests. It seems like they have experts guiding them. Guchansha circled around. This time, he was prepared to kill the Great Spirit God. But this undying cockroach had escaped once again. Fortunately, Guchansha did not care. He appeased these true gods and accumulated sacrifices. Then, he let them operate and build in his divine land gourd. After the divine land became the heavenly court, it could accommodate the common people as a base and a last resort. At this moment, the interior of the divine land gourd had undergone an earth-shattering change. The divine land gourd had fused with the primordial dragon gate. The primordial dragon gate was a supreme treasure on the same level as the primordial tree and the heaven sacrifice decree. By devouring this treasure, Guchansha had accomplished a great feat. It also caused the heavenly court to be incomplete in the future, weakening the enemy's strength and increasing his own. The primordial dragon gate had many mysteries. It was the door of the heavenly court. Through this door, one could live forever. As such, the primordial dragon gate contained the immortal true meaning of the rotation of the universe. Guchansha sat in the divine land gourd and watched the primordial dragon gate and the divine land gourd's origin fuse. Among them, the origin of Heavenly King of Jin was also added. The 5 elements great thousand world in the depths of the primordial dragon gate had turned into surging 5 elements essence chi, nourishing the gourd. Rumble. In the depths of the gourd, the true god prefecture suddenly shone with billions of rays of light. Strands of aura lit up the endless void. In that void, a dazzling and perfect flower of the future was born. Guchansha's strength was being violently cleansed. A mental cultivation method appeared above his head. This mental cultivation method was more profound than the dragon nurturing, dragon creation, and holy dragon mental cultivation method. It even surpassed the son of heaven's god sealing art. This was the dragonless mental cultivation method that Guchansha wanted to derive. Of course, this mental cultivation method was only in its embryonic form and was far from success. Once it succeeded, this mental cultivation method could overturn the control of the heavenly Tao and allow all living beings to obtain true freedom. At that time, a situation that had never been imagined in the world would appear. The dragonless mental cultivation method does have some exquisite aspects. My intelligence isn't enough to condense it into the complete version. It's just some of my own thoughts, but has already revealed all of my essence. The profound mysteries of the primordial dragon gate have all been absorbed and comprehended by me. Guchansha's body shook, and the energy within was perfectly wriggling. Then he flicked his finger. Buzz. As the sacrificial power within the divine land gourd surged, it suddenly extracted true immortal substances from within. Then these substances turned into the true God throne, exactly the same as the Son of Heaven's God sealing ceremony. True God throne, go. Let's all become true gods under the common people's commanders. As Guchansha spoke, the true God throne broke through the void. At this moment, in the world, there was one more true God throne under the 360 common people's commanders who controlled the entire situation. Instantly, the aura of true gods surged from their bodies. In the past, Guchansha had done this before, but at that time, the true God throne he condensed was not complete, and in fact, it didn't have much of an effect. But now, his true God throne was no different from the true God throne created by the ancient son of heaven's God sealing ceremony. In other words, Guchen Sha could now extract the sacrificial power of the people in the world to condense a true God throne, even without the heaven sacrificial decree. Back in the ancient times, there weren't many people in China. Even the ancient son of heaven, at his peak, could only confer a few true gods. There were so many true gods in history, and they were accumulated over thousands of years and hundreds of generations of sons of heaven. But in the current China, there were many people, and the strength of the people was more than 10,000 times that of the ancient son of heaven. The sacrificial power produced was like a landslide and a tsunami at every moment, and it was uncontrollable. Gu Chansha extracted the immortal substances from it to condense 300 true God thrones, and he seemed to be calm and relaxed, as if it was effortless. The common people's commander himself was a saint, and now that he had obtained the true God throne, their calculation and control abilities increased greatly. They began to spread their ideas, govern the world, and pacify the people. At the same time, they prepared for the upcoming calamity of China and the relocation of the people. In the world, the fate of the country flourished once again. The common people's true God aura swept around, explaining all sorts of things to the people. At the same time, the common people's commander and the calming immortal bureau joined forces, starting a new round of cleansing. At this time, Xian Xen, Jing Xiao, Guhua, Gu Tanjian, and Gu Changjian were still attacking the Heavenly Mother formation in the royal palace. Xian Xian's eyes were bloodshot, and he was determined to capture the concubines of the Heavenly Talisman Sovereign, ravaging all of them to take revenge. But now, the Heavenly Mother formation was getting stronger and stronger, and even with the power of the 4 barren lands, they couldn't do anything to it. Not good. All of a sudden, Gu Tanjian's expression changed. Everyone, something bad has happened. I need to retreat quickly. Heavenly King of Jin is in trouble. He fell into Gu Chincha's trap and lost the Dragon Gate of the School of Jin, and his own origin energy was also refined. Gu Chansha is now calculating something that surpasses the Saint Dragonheart Sutra, and he wants everyone in the world to cultivate it, becoming a divergent. If he succeeds, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to make a comeback. Let's leave quickly. As he spoke, Gu Tanjian had already transformed into a long sword, slashing through space and leaving first. Chapter 857. 1 second remember 09. To provide you with exciting reading. Chapter 854. Dragon-less Gorgu Chinsha was able to refine the position of true God from the sacrifices of the people because he was strong enough to interfere with the heavenly Tao. The position of true God could not be refined from chaotic energy. In other words, the position of true God could only be refined by the heavenly Tao from the human heart. Chaos had its flaws too. Gu Tanjian was the most cunning one. He was constantly sensing the movements of the divine continent. In an instant, he felt the birth of 360 true gods. He immediately felt some kind of message from the unseen world. He was scared out of his wits and left first. What? Gu Chansha devoured Dragon Gate and Jin Heavenly King. Xian Xin was almost moaning. His face was filled with despair. This time, he used the power of the 4 wilds to launch the calamity. Why do we fail every time? Is Gu Chansha really so strong? Let's go. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. Gu Chansha devoured Dragon Gate. It will take him a long time to digest it, but he is getting stronger and stronger. By then, it will not be difficult for him to suppress the 4 wilds. Jing Xiao could not hold it in anymore. He moved and tore the space apart, escaping. Although Xian Xin was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. At this time, Gu Changjian and Gu Hua joined hands with Xian Xin and left. A war that had started a great calamity had actually ended up with nothing. The palace returned to normal. Peacock heaved a sigh of relief. She secretly activated the Mother Formation. Very good. With the help of this calamity, I have successfully obtained the mother nature of heaven and earth. This mother formation can finally be perfected. When I return, I will fight for the position of the overlord of the demon race. I will subdue countless demon experts and finally obtain the true position of the lord of the demon realm. No matter what, the future lord of the demon realm will be equal to the heavenly kings. 09, small, say net. 09. She moved and was about to take the mother formation away. But the mother formation did not move. As she continued to retract her power, the formation pushed her power out. Then, the entire heavenly mother formation turned into a stream of light and disappeared. The heavenly mother formation fell into the divine land gourd and became a catalyst for Gu Chansha to merge with the primeval dragon sect. Gu Chansha had condensed the throne of true divinity for all 360 great marshals of the common people, and the control of the immortal tranquility department over the world was unprecedentedly strengthened. In an instant, these great marshals of the common people immediately began to do one thing, and that was to unite and find all the people who had reincarnated from the stars, and then gather them under Zhuge Ye's command. In the past, the Tranquil Immortal Department had been monitoring them in secret, allowing them to develop naturally. Now that the world had changed, and these people who were reincarnated from the stars were still appearing in an endless stream, they had to be subdued. If they didn't submit, they would be stripped of their source energy and reduced to mortals. This was the policy change of the Tranquil Immortal Department. It was ruthless. Even the heavenly king of Jin, Chu Feng, was reduced to a mortal, let alone the people who had reincarnated from stars. I've worked so hard, but it's all for the Tranquil Immortal Department. Peacock was filled with regret, but there was nothing she could do. The Tranquil Immortal Department was too powerful, especially Gu Chensha, who had actually devoured the heavenly king of Jin and the primeval dragon sect. Next, it was likely that the process of him ruling over the world would truly begin. Inside the divine land gourd, all the higher-ups gathered together again. They were all around Gu Chensha, Zhuge Ye, Lu Baiwei, Gu Huasha, Heavenly Lord of Martial Arts, Wenhong, Longevity God, Chang Weiyang, Chang Yuzhou, Tai Xuandu, and Tai Mang Di, King of Common Life, Long Yun, Yuan Lu, Long Zaifei, Little God Son, Ming, Zheng, the reincarnated deity of 5 seasons, Lu Yu, and the others were all gathered together. They were all looking at the changes that were happening to Gu Chensha. Gu Chensha sat cross-legged. Many of the powers in his body were squirming and changing. Finally, the remnant of the dragonless mental cultivation technique stabilized. There were billions of runes in the remnant, and they vaguely formed a throne. This was the final throne of immortality. The head on the throne vaguely emitted a supreme aura. However, this throne was incomplete. There were parts missing here and there, showing that Gu Chencha's power was insufficient. "This is the throne of the Emperor of Heaven?" Lu Baiwei asked in astonishment. "It's more or less the same. I am deducing the true power of the throne of the Emperor of Heaven. Originally, I had already cultivated the Heavenly Tao technique and possessed some of the authority of the Heavenly Tao. However, this is still not enough. Now that I have swallowed the Dragon Gate of prehistoric desolation, it caused the Divine Prefecture gourd to completely expand. Moreover, there are 3,000 true gods continuously offering sacrifices. I have already deduced half of the dragonless mental cultivation technique. With this power, I can condense the throne of the Emperor of Heaven. In the future, I will definitely be able to compete with the true Emperor of Heaven for the throne." Gu Chensha said, "Now, I will impart these dragonless mental cultivation techniques to you. You can cultivate this mental cultivation technique and extract all kinds of immortal substances from the human heart. You can even condense the throne of the true gods. Your hearts are all very powerful. You can offer sacrifices to yourself. The power of the sacrifices can be used by yourself. This is the supreme secret of the heart." As he spoke, Gu Chansha transmitted the will of the dragonless mental cultivation technique that he had comprehended into everyone's sea of consciousness. After everyone received this mental cultivation technique, they immediately felt as if they had been reborn. Ha ha! So that's how it is. When Hong's body suddenly changed, his body emitted the aura of an Empyrean. He had actually broken through to the Empyrean level. He was originally the Son of Heaven, the identity of the Son of Heaven. In the future, after the heavenly court was established, he would even be the Lord of the human world. This identity and luck were even greater than Zhuge Ye's ascension to the Empyrean level. Bang! With his body as the center, the surrounding space first shattered. Then, from his body, streams of aura slowly condensed into the throne of the true gods. He actually began to condense his own throne of the true gods. Wonderful. One Hong said, "Your incomplete dragonless mental cultivation technique has just come out, and you can already seize the fortune of the heavenly Tao. You can use your own spirit power to condense the immortal throne of the true gods. If you complete it, you can really condense the throne of the Emperor of Heaven. You can stand on equal footing with the heavenly Tao and finally transform the common people, surpassing the heavenly Tao. However, now that you have devoured the primordial dragon gate, if you want to completely comprehend the dragonless mental cultivation technique, you will probably have to devour the heaven sacrifice talisman, the Hongmeng tree, and finally the throne of the Emperor of Heaven. Only then will you have the upper hand." That's right. The throne of the Emperor of Heaven must be devoured. Recently, there are still some reincarnated people with endless treasures that have yet to appear. Gu Qinsha said, "I haven't collected the boundless heart, the boundless sword, the boundless saber, and the boundless river. In addition, you guys have to pay close attention to the whereabouts of the other reincarnated people. We have been keeping a close watch on this." Lu Baiwei suddenly said, "That's right. Right now, Regal Propria's golden plate is still in our hands. It is the strongest treasure left behind by His Majesty. It has repeatedly helped our calming immortal department to escape from disaster. Now that our calming immortal department has developed to such a scale, the contribution of this golden plate cannot go unnoticed. You can analyze and research it. Perhaps you can fuse it and make the divine landlord's power reach its limit. I already know the effects of Regal Propria's golden plate." Gu Qinsha waved his hand and said, "Baiwei, carry it with you. Don't leave it carelessly. This golden plate was bestowed to you by His Majesty. Your identity is extremely special. Because of this identity, you will most likely face great difficulties in the future. However, this golden plate can make your tribulation disappear completely. It can even allow your cultivation to advance further and fuse with the source of your special identity. This is something I comprehended after devouring the Wild Dragon sect. My identity is special? What exactly is it?" Lu Baiyue's gaze suddenly turned sharp. "Could it be? If my guess is correct, you have the source of the Empress of Heaven hidden in your body. In other words, you are the person chosen by the Empress of Heaven, the Emperor of Heaven. The Empress of Heaven controls the future of the heavenly court and the infinite space-time of the myriad worlds. Her status is so noble that it surpasses that of the Lord of the Sun and Moon." At this time, Gu Qinsha had already entered an immeasurable realm. No one could see what his cultivation level was. Between heaven and earth, the future and the present, there seemed to be nothing he couldn't see through. "The Empress of Heaven." Lu Baiwei thought for a while and then said slowly and calmly, "No wonder I feel that I can't break through to the celestial master realm. So that's why. But I can't find out where the source of the Empress of Heaven is hiding. If I find it, I can extract it, subdue, and refine it. The Empress of Heaven is nothing to me. For me, the source of the Empress of Heaven should only be used as a resource. If you want to use it to control my fate, that's just wishful thinking. The source of the Empress of Heaven is not to be underestimated. But for us, it is also a good thing." Gu Qinsha waved his hand. "Right now, the source of the Empress of Heaven might not be awake. Of course, that's just my guess. Maybe the Empress of Heaven is someone else, but you should be careful. Also, if the Empress of Heaven's source really is on you, then the Emperor Heaven will come looking for you. He will take the Empress of Heaven's source from you, or completely transform you. Either way, we must refine the Empress of Heaven's source for our own use. But as long as I become a celestial master, I can sense where the Empress of Heaven's source is hiding. I can extract it, erase the mark, and refine the Empress of Heaven's source into a treasure for you to use. Liu Baiwen nodded. That way, my cultivation base will increase, and in the future, I will be able to better control the situation. If Gu Tiansha can control the source of the Lord of the Sun and Moon, then I can control the Empress of Heaven's source. Now that I've become a celestial master, there are many things I can do. Wen Hong said, I have a new idea about how to govern the world and develop the Four Wilds. Although the source of the Four Wilds has fallen into the hands of others, we can still take it back. Qinsha, the most important thing now is to take the heart of the Four Wilds. The Four Wilds are the foundation of the divine prefecture. If we take it, we can weaken the power of the heavenly court in the future. There's no rush to take the heart of the Four Wilds. You can go and prepare. Gu Qinsha stood up. I devoured the prehistoric Dragon Gate. The divine prefecture gourd can be called the Dragonless gourd. Mobile users, please browse M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 858. 1 second remember 09 to provide you with exciting reading. Chapter 855. Dealing with concubine, Ming the divine land gourd had fused with the little Hongming tree and the primeval Dragon Gate. It had now become a stable base. As Gu Qinsha derived the Dragonless Heart Sutra, the mysteries of the divine land, and the essence of the myriad worlds, there is even hope that the people born in the divine land gourd could be as perfect as those born in the divine central continent. 09 small, net. 09 now. No matter where the living beings born, the sacrificial power they could produce could not compare to those born in the divine land. Gu Qinsha was determined to forge a perfect divine land, so he began to analyze the situation. In the Dragonless gourd, he extracted some test subjects of the divine land's bloodline. Not only did he want to create people born in the divine central continent, he wanted them to surpass them. In other words, the people born in the Dragonless gourd had to surpass those born in the divine central continent. In this way, the divine land, as the future heavenly court, would have no advantage. Right now, Gu Qinsha couldn't do that. Therefore, he had to protect the Central Plains divine prefecture. He had to do his best to prolong its existence, even if it was just a few years. During that time, more people could be born. Gu Qinsha could see that the more people born in the divine central continent, the greater the damage to the future heavenly court. In the future, the heavenly court's power would also be weakened. It would be best if Gu Qinsha could also collect the divine central continent and fuse it into the Dragonless gourd, making it truly complete. However, he could not collect the divine central continent yet. The divine central continent could be said to be the most powerful enchanted treasure. It was much more powerful than the primeval Dragon Gate, the heavenly sacrifice talisman, and the Hongmeng tree. This was the embryonic form of the future heavenly court. Naturally, no enchanted treasure in the world could compare to it. Gu Qinsha knew that the Emperor of Heaven had not yet been born. If the Emperor of Heaven was born and suppressed the divine central continent, the heavenly court would appear in the future. 09 Fortunately, the emergence of the Emperor of Heaven required the combination of 36 incomparable treasures, and now 20 incomparable treasures had fallen into Gu Qinsha's hands, refined into a part of the Dragonless gourd. Therefore, in order for the Emperor of Heaven to recover his power and for the heavenly court to truly emerge in the future, he had to kill Gu Qinsha and seize the Dragonless gourd. I won't take the 4 desolate hearts for now, but I'll have to get the decree of heaven's sacrifice. And that Wu Dongkong's concubine Ming, I'll have to extract her essence. Gu Qinsha said, these are all the future ministers of the heavenly court. If we can subdue as many as we can weaken the fate energy of the Emperor of Heaven and slowly gain a huge advantage. However, at present, the Heaven's Sacrificial Talisman is the easiest treasure for us to obtain, because you have half of the control over it. Lu Baiwei said, after obtaining the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman, you can absorb it into the dragonless gourd to replenish yourself. Then you'll probably be able to ascend to the celestial stage. More or less, I'm actually just one step away from the celestial stage. Once I consume the Heaven's Sacrificial Talisman, I'll be truly complete. Of course, it would be best if I could also consume the entire primordial mist tree. Gu Qinsha said, right now, what you need to do is maintain the stability of the world. As long as the world is stable, the power of the sacrifices will continue to be produced, and our power will reach its pinnacle. As Gu Qinsha spoke, massive amounts of sacrificial power streaked through the void, converging and pouring into the depths of the dragonless gourd. The space within the dragonless gourd expanded, and the true divine prefecture within the dragonless gourd was now filled with 80 to 90% of the aura of the divine prefecture of the central plains. Furthermore, there was a place within the dragonless gourd that was filled with true gods. These true gods couldn't come out, as they were imprisoned by Gu Qinsha. What they needed was sacrifice. 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 Gu Qinsha would provide them with vital energy for cultivation. Although Gu Qinsha had subdued nearly 3,000 true gods in the primeval Dragon Gate, that wasn't a guarantee. If they were released, it would instead cause problems for internal strife and intrigue. All that was needed to govern the world was the general of common people. The world will naturally be stable. We will slowly withdraw the bureaucratic system. Right now, there are no village chiefs in the various villages, nor are there any mayors in the towns. Everyone will be replaced by petty officials who will enforce the law impartially. After that, we will begin to abolish the bureaucratic system. Magistrates, prefects, governors, and even the officials of the 6 ministries and the military will all be abolished. We will replace them with puppets of the common people. That way, the efficiency will increase by more than 100 times. Apart from that, all the grievances from the bureaucrats will be removed. The world will welcome a new era with the imperial court and no more bureaucrats. Lu Baiyue's eyes shone, and she decided on a huge plan. Now, the 360 common people's generals had all reached Saint Realm. Apart from that, they also had true god positions. Their cultivation was increasing by leaps and bounds, and they would reach the Dao Realm 36 transformations. Apart from that, there was also common people's marquis, the king of common people. He was more than enough to manage the world. He just needed to raise the efficiency and raise the country luck to the highest realm. Gu Qinsha rose to his feet. Don't stop attacking the demon city. I could have wiped out the devil race's old-timers in one fell swoop, just like the 3,000 true gods. Unfortunately, God Mahakasayapa suddenly cut off the sacrificial rites. Even I couldn't catch him. Clearly, someone behind the scenes made a move. If my speculations are correct, the mysterious underworld has already surfaced. If we attack the demon city, the underworld will suffer a huge loss. Those celestial venerables and heaven longevity realm old demons will actually be the core members of the underworld in the future. However, once I get the heaven sacrifice decree, I will completely uproot the underworld. In the future, there will be no need for such a dark existence like the underworld. Things like the demon world and the underworld shouldn't continue to exist. The great spirit god really has an exuberant destiny. He never dies. I can't believe he escaped a calamity. It seems he's messing with the underworld again. Lu Baiwei was frowning when it came to the great spirit god. The great spirit god was currently at the heaven longevity realm, and he had condensed the power of the great Kiliacosm of heaven origin in an attempt to reach the heaven origin stage. However, that level of power wasn't enough to deal with the current Celestial Commerce Bureau. However, Lu Baiwei was still very displeased with the fact that the great spirit god had managed to evade her pursuit over and over again. It's fine. The great spirit god is of great use to me. I won't let him die for the time being. I now understand why Imperial Father didn't kill him back then. In fact, he's a key figure in the future, and he might even be the key to us defeating the Emperor of Heaven. His source has yet to reveal itself. After he defers to the future heavenly court and the Emperor of Heaven, he'll plot against the Emperor of Heaven and seize the Emperor of Heaven's throne. Gu Chensh's eyes shone with endless wisdom. His source is also a tribulation, and an extremely powerful one at that. It hasn't revealed itself yet, but when he awakens completely, he'll join the heaven and earth. At that time, he'll be a poisonous snake lying in ambush beside the Emperor of Heaven. Not only will I not kill him now, but I'll even help him in secret so that he can play a great role. After refining the desolate Dragon Gate, Gu Chansha seemed to understand many mysteries. Whoosh! As he spoke, his body swayed, and he left the dragonless gourd, heading to the eastern wilderness. I'll personally go to the eastern wilderness to collect the sacrificial talisman. The Eastern Wilderness Alliance has been going on for a long time, and the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth has been suppressing it, so the Eastern Wilderness Immortal Tao sect can't quickly merge with the Yonko country's destiny. The Patriarch of Heaven and Earth is still struggling. This time, I'll not only go to obtain the sacrificial talisman, but also to obtain the Heart of Infinity and gather the endless 36 treasures as soon as possible. Only then can I spy on more of the Emperor of Heaven's secrets. After devouring the desolate Dragon Gate, Gu Chench's cultivation had reached an unimaginable level. It could be said that even the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Chansha, who had ascended to the Celestial Lord realm, was no match for him. Other than the Emperor of Heaven, Gu Chansha was invincible in the world. With a thought, he arrived in the sky above the Eastern Wilderness. The vast land and mountains of the Eastern Wilderness were completely reflected in his eyes. The entire Eastern Wilderness was a place that even deity-level experts would have to fly for a long time across. But to Gu Chansha, the Eastern Wilderness was nothing more than something in his pocket. Looking down from above, the Eastern Wilderness mountain range stretched out. Some mountains stretched for millions of miles, reaching tens of thousands of miles high, piercing through the clouds. Everywhere was overflowing with spiritual chi. Countless grotto heavens and blessed lands were built, and countless experts, cultivators, and Black Gate of Immortal Tao sect were cultivating in seclusion. The mountains were high, and the forests were dense. The entire Eastern Wilderness could be said to be a cultivation world. Good place, good place. This was not the first time Gu Chansha had been here, but every time he saw it, he nodded to himself, thinking that the Eastern Wilderness was a good place. The center of the Eastern Wilderness was where the Black Heaven and Earth Gate was. There was a huge, independent space there, and the huge gate was faintly discernible, stabilizing the space and gathering the fate energy and luck of the entire Eastern Wilderness. The Patriarch of the Black Heaven and Earth Gate is quite powerful. When he built the Black Heaven and Earth Gate, he tied this divine weapon with the fate energy of the Eastern Wilderness and used it to suppress the Eastern Wilderness. No wonder the Black Heaven and Earth Gate is still standing. Gu Chansha observed carefully and did not immediately go to find Wu Dankong. He had already sensed that Wu Dankong was in the Black Heaven and Earth Gate because he had arranged a chess piece next to Wu Dankong, and that was the untainted old man. Now that he was observing the Eastern Wilderness, he was actually thinking of a grand plan, which was to absorb the entire Eastern Wilderness into the Dragonless Gourd, and then empty the entire Eastern Wilderness. This was a truly grand plan. So what if Xian Xin had the heart of the Eastern Wilderness? If he suppressed and refined the entire Eastern Wilderness, what would be the use of the heart of the Eastern Wilderness? Not only that, Gu Chansha even wanted to refine the four wastelands and absorb them into his Dragonless Gourd. This was a truly grand plan. This was also not the reason why he was too lazy to find Xian Xin and the others. It was better to remove the firewood from under the pot than to stop the boiling. Xian Xin, Gu Hua, Jing Xiu, and Gu Changjian each controlled the four wastelands, but when Gu Chansha took all of them, the four of them were truly dumbfounded. Mobile users, please browse M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 859. genius in a second to remember. If you like it, go. To provide you with exciting novels to read. Chapter 856. Seizing the decree, Gu Chunsha had been observing the eastern wastelands for an hour, trying to come up with a way to completely absorb the eastern wastelands into the divine prefecture's gourd. The eastern wastelands were much larger than the divine central continent. Once it was completely absorbed, it would most likely cause a chain reaction that would cause the balance between the four wildernesses and the divine prefecture to be lost. If that happened, an even greater disaster would occur. However, Gu Qinshan knew that this was the best way to weaken the future celestial court. Without any of the four wildernesses, it would be difficult for the divine prefecture to transform into the celestial court. In the future, if the heavenly court truly wanted to stand above the heavens and be immortal, it would definitely not be a simple matter. Rumble. As Gu Chunsha waved his hand, thousands of strands of dragon chi appeared on his body. These strands of dragon chi twisted and wriggled, each of them millions of miles long. They seeped into the depths of space-time, where even the cosmic tides could do nothing to them. This dragon chi was neither a true dragon nor a holy dragon, but a dragonless chi that Gu Chunsha had comprehended. The so-called Wulong did not mean that there were no dragons, but rather that there was a supreme dragon, a supreme dragon. It was already impossible to describe a great dragon, and there was no adjective or artistic conception that could describe its power. Wulong, an indescribable dragon. This was the true meaning of dragonless. True dragons were the son of heaven's aura. In this world, only the son of heaven's aura, condensed by the nation's fate divine prefecture, could transform into a true dragon. But Wulong was many times more powerful than a true dragon. It was a dragon that could break through the restraints of the heavenly Taos. It soared into the nine heavens, breaking through the restraints and soaring freely. Eastern Wasteland, I infused dragonless chi into you so that you could understand the truth of dragonless chi. The true essence of dragons is what you truly want. The Eastern Wasteland heart you condense now is nothing more than a shackle that fate has placed on you. You have to abandon your Eastern Wasteland heart and condense a dragonless heart. Only then will you be able to transcend your original essence and achieve freedom, greatness, and greatness. Love, go little, say net. Gu Chunsha watched as the dragonless chi descended and seeped into the depths of Eastern Baron. Eastern Baron shook a little, but then calmed down completely. As for Gu Chunsha, he leaped over countless obstacles and arrived at the center of the Eastern Baron territory, inside the Black Heaven Earth Gate. He did not appear in front of the mountain gate of the Black Sect of Heaven and Earth. Instead, he appeared in the core of the Black Sect of Heaven and Earth. Even a master of the sun and moon, Gu Chunsha, had been able to enter the Black Heaven Earth Gate with ease, let alone the current Gu Chunsha. Now, Gu Chunsha was even more powerful than Gu Tiansha, who had become a heavenly venerate. It could be said that he had completely conquered the Black Heaven Earth sect. Patriarch Heaven and Earth and the entire Black Heaven Earth sect did not know what had happened. However, to him, the Black Heaven Earth sect was still too small. He wanted to conquer the entire Eastern Wilderness. In one of the core areas of the Black Heaven Earth Gate, Ming Fei Wu Dangkong was cultivating bitterly. The Heaven's sacrificial talisman floated above her head, and countless rays of green light shone down, making her impervious to all evils. With the protection of the heavenly Tao, no one could plot against her. Ming Fei's source, I have fully comprehended it. Wu Dongkong's aura was like a wave, and something crucial in her body was about to awaken. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. In the depths of her brow, a giant power rose up and light started to tangle with one another. The light shone, causing the ground to sink, heaven and earth to split apart, and the sun and moon shone brightly. I am Ming Fei. Ming Fei is me. I am Emperor Heaven's Ming Fei, not Gu Taxian's Ming Fei. So that is the case. Wudong Kong said, Jing Fanqing was the innocuous heavenly king, and he spied on me in the future. He harbored evil intentions, so he lost his status as the innocuous heavenly king in this life. I was once Jing Fanqing's fiancé, so the karma between us is over. Peng, Wu Dangkong, who had awakened Ming Fei's source, had her cultivation climb. Wave after wave of her power broke through the bottleneck of Dao Realm 36 transformation and Celestial Lord Realm. In an instant, Wu Dangkong reached Celestial Lord Realm. Following this, Wu Dangkong's cultivation improved, and she stepped into Celestial Life Realm. This wasn't all. The power of Kiliakosm in her body was gathering and surging. For some reason, it was activated and the core seed of Kiliakosm was formed. Each of her actions contained the power of Kiliakosm. Although this wasn't Heaven Essence Realm, it was half Heaven Essence Realm. Such a realm was just really terrifying. Old Man Desolation was standing beside Wu Dangkong. Seeing Wu Dangkong's transformation, his expression slightly changed. He bowed down and said, "Congratulations to Concubine Ming for successfully cultivating. In the future, you will definitely reach the Heaven Origin Realm. I will definitely reach Heaven Essence Realm. What I need to do now is simple, which is to refine the words Gu Taxian left in the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. Man can conquer nature. Oof. In the end, Gu Taxian will become nourishment for the Heavenly Daos. To the Heavenly Daos, Gu Taxian is a fat piece of meat that is hard to digest. But in the end, he's just a fat piece of meat. He's not a formidable opponent. Once we devour Gu Taxian, we will all obtain great benefits." Wu Dangkong's temperament was completely different. As for Gu Qinsha, I will capture him and sacrifice him to the Heavenly Daos. The power of the sacrifice will be enough for me to reach Heaven Essence Realm. I will even be able to push my own strength to the limit and comprehend the secrets of the Heavenly Daos. In the end, I will become an existence even more powerful than the Empress. Sacrifice Prince Gu Qinsha. I'm afraid Concubine Ming won't be able to do this. Old Man Zhuang's tone also changed. What? Wu Dangkong clearly felt the change in Old Man Zhuang's tone. He looked over and said, "What are you saying? You're not loyal to me. Who are you? But that's not important. I will capture you and refine you completely. Then, I will know everything." Wu Dangkong looked at Old Man Zhuang like she was looking at an ant. To her, Old Man Zhuang was nothing at all. As she spoke, she gently grabbed with her palm. She crossed the endless space and was about to pull Old Man Zhuang over and burn him into pills or treasures. But at this moment, she realized that she couldn't use any of her power. The space around her seemed to be in a state of destruction. In this state, she couldn't use any of her power. What's going on? Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. Wu Dangkong activated the power of the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. But at the next moment, her expression changed. She realized that she couldn't control the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. In this secret space, a figure appeared. It was Gu Qinsha. Gu Qinsha was dressed in embroidered robes. He looked like a 17 or 18-year-old teenager. His appearance didn't change because of the passage of time. The Heavenly Dao and time seemed to fear him and submitted to him. They didn't dare to approach him at all. At this moment, anyone who saw Gu Qinsha would think that he was invincible and immortal. He was truly immortal, and the Heavenly Dao couldn't do anything to him. After Gu Qinsha appeared, he moved his palms slightly. Countless energy surged over. The Heaven Sacrificial Talisman exploded. The explosive energy reverberated continuously. Every time it exploded, Ming Fei Wu Dangkong's face turned pale. After 36 consecutive echoes, Ming Fei Wu spurted out a mouthful of blood. She could feel that she had lost control of the Heavenly Sacrificial Talisman, which was originally given to her by the Heavenly Dao and was no longer related to her. She could no longer control this talisman. In other words, from now on, this talisman would no longer have any connection with her. It no longer belonged to her. Prehistoric old man, you've done well. Gu Qinsha grabbed the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman as a smile of reminiscence appeared on his face. It was as though he had regained his beloved toy. He recalled the past. During the 14th year of the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman, he was 14 years old. He obtained this talisman from the pile of old books in the royal palace. After that, he couldn't stop himself. Using this talisman to slay gods and devils, his cultivation speed increased and he obtained countless benefits. After that, this talisman flew away and landed in the hands of Wu Dankong. However, his fate energy didn't decrease because of this. Instead, it rose steadily. He abandoned the Son of Heaven investiture art and created the mortal life mending heaven technique. Finally, he created the Dragonless Heart Sutra. In the eyes of everyone, this talisman was extremely mysterious. But in the eyes of Gu Qinsha, there were no secrets to speak of. He had already completely refined the desolate dragon sect that was on par with the heaven sacrificial talisman. Not to mention, half of the control over this talisman belonged to him. Wonderful! Gu Qinsha held the heaven sacrificial talisman and calmed his emotions. This talisman is indeed closely related to the heavenly Tao. It is the most important token for the heavenly court to communicate with the human realm in the future. If the human realm is disobedient, the heavenly court will use this talisman to change its master. In the future, among the divine realm, devil realm, demon realm, immortal realm, and various other realms, the human realm is the weakest. However, the human realm has the most variables and the greatest potential. It can pose a threat to the heavenly court. Because of this, the heavenly court wants to control the human realm, while the heavenly court wants to weaken and control it. However, the human realm is indispensable to the heavenly court. The reason why the heavenly court can be so high and mighty, everlasting and indestructible, is because of the sacrificial offerings in the human realm. If the human realm is destroyed, the heavenly court will also lose its foundation and gradually fall. Therefore, the human realm is a double-edged sword for the heavenly court and the heavenly court. If the human realm is too strong, the heavenly court will feel threatened. If the human realm is too weak, it will not produce enough sacrificial offerings. The heavenly court will weaken, and the heavenly court will not be able to evolve further. This talisman is the talisman of the human realm. It is also a seal and restraint. No wonder Father used the words "man conquers the heavens" to suppress this talisman. Now that this talisman is in my hands again, I will make this talisman a talisman that transcends the heavens. Gu Qinshan knew that this talisman was the key to the heavenly court. Although he had lost it and regained it, it would still take a lot of time to completely refine it. The meaning of the words "man conquers the heavens" in this talisman could improve his Dragonless Heart Sutra. If he refined this treasure, he would become a celestial lord with a snap of his fingers. He kept the talisman and looked at Wu Dankong. Wu Dankong, come with me. Reading, a better reading experience. Chapter 860. Gu Qinsha. Wu Dankong gritted her teeth. You're always haunting me. You even stole my heavenly sacrifice decree today. But do you think you've won? The general trend is irreversible. No matter how much you struggle, it's all for naught. I should be the one saying that to you, said Gu Qinsha. You're Imperial Father's concubine, so I don't want to make a move against you. You should force concubine Ming's essence out yourself. Then I'll take it and refine it. After that, you can enter the harem and stay with the other concubines. Don't do anything, and you might be able to escape with your life. Even the school of Jin Heavenly King has been refined by me, and the Raging Dragon sect has also fallen into my hands. The Heaven Sacrificial Decree and the Raging Dragon sect are equally famous. Since I can refine the Raging Dragon sect, I can naturally refine the Heaven Sacrificial Decree too. I'm Emperor of Heaven's concubine Ming, not Gu Taxian's concubine. Gu Taxian is a heaven-defying character, yet he dares to take me into his harem. He'll meet a miserable end and can only serve as food for the heavenly Tao. As for you, Gu Qinsha, you might be proud for a while, but you'll eventually be suppressed by Emperor of Heaven. Everything you're doing now is actually benefiting Emperor of Heaven. Wu Dankong was unmoved. She seemed determined to fight Gu Qinsha to the bitter end. If that's the case, then I won't hold back. Gu Chunsha sighed. Since you've admitted that you're Emperor of Heaven's concubine Ming, then you're courting death. I can't save you, so I can only take your concubine Ming's essence and forcibly extract it, turning you into an ordinary person like the school Jin Heavenly King. Gu Chunsha made a grabbing motion. A vortex appeared out of nowhere in his palm. Right now, his cultivation had already returned to its original state, turning something rotten into something magical. A simple action or a glance could have the power to tear apart the heavens and earth. Therefore, he basically did not have any martial arts moves, nor did he have any Dao techniques to kill. He was like the heavenly Dao, killing at will, changing at will, and with a single thought he could do anything. This was the current Gu Chunsha. Sure enough, with a move of her palm, Ming Fei Wu Dongkong's body flew towards the whirlpool involuntarily. Not good. Ming Fei Wu Dongkong's entire body was trembling violently, as if he was about to explode. His life force was about to be sucked away. Suddenly, she moved violently as boundless light radiated from her palms. Tao of Xiantian, 6 paths bright fist. Rumble. Between heaven and earth, 6 types of vibrations, 6 types of sounds, 6 types of reincarnation, 6 types of light, all of them rippled within her fist technique. This was Ming Fei's unparalleled divine technique that would sweep through all the realms in the future. The future of heaven and earth, the light of the sun and moon, illuminate the heavens, limitless and limitless. As soon as Ming Fei Wu Dongkong's 6 paths bright fist appeared, a golden giant appeared behind her. This giant had the body of a snake and the head of a human. It looked ancient and desolate. It swung its arm in the air, and the world swallowed and spat out. Everything was renewed and renewed. Interesting. Gu Chunsha nodded. The 6 paths bright fist. As Ming Fei, you created this fist technique, and it suits you the best. In the future, you will indeed rely on this fist technique to suppress the heavens and earth. In fact, if the Emperor Heaven doesn't appear, you will be able to wield the power of the heavenly court. For a long time, you have been a woman and caused many disasters. In the end, your fate was not very good. You were banished to the cold palace by the Emperor Heaven. That is your fate. Rather than accepting such a fate, why don't you convert to me and worship me? In the future, your position will be even higher than Ming Fei's. As he spoke, Gu Chunsha clasped his hands in front of his chest. The air around them began to collapse, and all of the light was suppressed. In the middle of it appeared an enormous crystal sphere, within which Ming Fei Wu Dongkong was trapped. She struggled left and right in an attempt to break the seal and escape. It's useless, Wu Dongkong. This seal of mine is the highest secret sealing technique I've comprehended from the Dragonless Heart technique. It's all in preparation for sealing the Emperor Heaven. Since you're the Emperor Heaven's concubine, I'll use you to extract the secrets of the Emperor Heaven. Gu Chunsha clenched his fist, and the crystal sphere shrank even further. This sealing technique was indeed the latest one he'd come up with. It was used to extract Wu Dongkong's Ming Fei's origin, but it wouldn't kill Wu Dongkong. Instead, it would make Wu Dongkong suffer a fate worse than death. Gu Chunsha couldn't use all of his strength to deal with Wu Dongkong. He still had to guard against all aspects. Most of his strength was used to suppress the divine prefecture and resist the appearance of the master of the sun and moon, Gu Tiansha. He also had to guard against the Emperor Heaven, the underworld, the primal chaos, the zenith heaven, the east flower, and the wisdom heavenly kings. In fact, he hadn't even used 1/10 of his strength to deal with Wu Dongkong. But Wu Dongkong didn't have the slightest ability to fight back in front of him. Extract. Gradually, an hour passed. Wu Dongkong, who was struggling in the crystal sphere, had gradually weakened. With a thought from Gu Chunsha, the crystal sphere suddenly began to spin at a high speed. Even the heavens couldn't resist the suction from this high-speed spinning crystal sphere. Wu Dongkong let out a miserable scream. Suddenly, a source that was more dazzling than the sun and moon flowed out from Wu Dongkong's body. The crystal sphere grew brighter and brighter, as if a second sun had been born. Not bad. Concubine Ming's source is indeed an immortal resource. It's extremely mysterious. After I obtain it and fuse it into the dragonless gourd, the gourd will improve further. This source can also be put to better use, allowing me to quickly refine the sacrificial decree and advance to the celestial lord realm. Gu Qinsha said in front of Wu Dankong. Die. Wu Dankong's rage seemed to be able to burn everything. She thought back to how she had been suppressed ever since she had started cultivating. The rage in her heart had reached a level that could destroy the heavens and earth. She suddenly let out a long roar, almost burning all of her essence, energy, and soul. Emperor of Heaven, Heavenly Tao, I am willing to give up everything I have. I will fall into the seamless abyss forever. I will drag this Gu Qinsha down with me. I swear on my identity as concubine Ming that I will give up everything. Following Wu Dankong's oath, something seemed to have taken effect. Unknowingly, an indescribable substance seeped into it. Bang! Suddenly, Gu Qinsha felt the power within the crystal sphere go out of control and explode. He actually couldn't control it. Very good. Gu Qinsha did not panic in the slightest in the face of such change. With a push and a pull, he immediately sent the exploding crystal ball into the space-time turbulence, creating a huge ripple in the depths of the cosmic tide. This sort of explosion was equivalent to the destruction of the greater thousand worlds. It was extremely powerful, but it couldn't do anything to Gu Qinsha. After the explosion in the cosmic tide was over, concubine Ming Wu Dankong had already disappeared. Very good. Gu Qinsha wasn't depressed at all. Instead, he was happy. Just now, the Emperor of Heaven made his move. When the Emperor of Heaven saw that concubine Ming's source was about to be extracted and captured, he couldn't help but reveal some clues. He flipped his palm over and extended a finger. On this finger, there was a strange light wriggling, as if it were about to disappear. However, it couldn't completely dissipate because Gu Qinsha had used his own spiritual power to lock it in place. This was a sign that the Emperor of Heaven had made his move. The Emperor of Heaven's technique. Gu Qinsha had caught hold of the Emperor of Heaven's technique. With this, Gu Qinsha could finally find the whereabouts of the Emperor of Heaven's reincarnation. In the battle against the Emperor of Heaven, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Your Highness, just now, Old Man Primitive was scared out of his wits. That's right. Just now, the Emperor of Heaven made his move. This is a good thing. It's easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to guard against a stab in the dark. Now that the Emperor of Heaven has revealed some clues and left a trace of his spiritual power with me, it'll be much easier for me to catch him. Also, with this trace of spiritual power, I can study and deduce many of the Emperor of Heaven's secret techniques, which will greatly increase my spiritual power and cultivation. Gu Qinsha seemed to have already calculated this. Your mission is now complete. Quickly go back and enter the dragonless gourd. I will create a true god position for you. You can mix in with the 3,000 true gods and offer sacrifices while managing them. Yes. Old Man Primitive submitted. He knew that if he entered the dragonless gourd to cultivate and manage the 3,000 true gods, he might be able to reach the divine prime level in the future. After sending Old Man Primitive off, Gu Qinsha looked at another secret location in the depths of the black gate of heaven and earth. Immortal Lord, you're next. Your prehistoric civilization's one-god system is the quintessence of a mechanical civilization. It even wants to replace the heavenly Tao. Although it's the crystallization of a civilization, it's impossible to replace the heavenly Tao. However, once it's in my hands, I can refine and repair it to cover the entire empire. The Yonko Empire's order will be strengthened by millions of times, and it should be able to suppress the unrest in the divine continent. Gu Qinsha's next target was the Immortal Lord. The Immortal Lord was the most important and also the woman of the Heavenly Talisman Emperor. In fact, the Heavenly Talisman Emperor could even give birth to Gu Qinsha. Gu Qinsha wanted to persuade the Immortal Lord to hand over the one-god system of the prehistoric civilization. Gu Qinsha had to get the one God system. Whoosh! He stepped into the secret dimension and saw a woman, her clothes fluttering in the wind, waiting for him. This woman was none other than the Immortal Lord. So you're here. The Immortal Lord wasn't surprised to see Gu Qinsha. I underestimated you. I didn't think you'd be able to hold on for so long. You even schemed against Heavenly King Jin, obtained the Urwild's Dragon Gate, and sacrificed 3,000 true gods. You're now the Emperor of Heaven's greatest enemy. If the Emperor of Heaven wants to rule the world, establish the heavenly court, and take control of the myriad worlds, he'll have to eliminate you. There's no doubt about it. Since you know that, why don't you give me the one God system? Looking at the Immortal Lord, Gu Qinsha continued, You don't have much use for the system of the one God. Only I can repair it. Besides, if you join the side of the Emperor of Heaven, you won't get any benefits. In fact, because of your relationship with Grand Emperor Heaven Talisman, the Tao of Heaven will definitely not tolerate you. A. The most advanced product of the previous civilization was the system of the one God. If I could control it, you wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Then you joined this alliance because you were looking for an opportunity. Maybe we can use the power of the alliance to take control of the one God system? How could Gu Qinsha not understand what the Divine Master meant? This system is indeed powerful. The power you are using is not even 1/10,000th of it. Even this destroyed system is far more powerful than the prehistoric dragon sect, the Heaven's Sacrifice Talisman, and even the Hongmeng Tree. It seems like you're determined to get it. However, the system and the prehistoric civilization are not here. They are far away in the chaotic flow of time, in a secret place, in the deepest part of the ancient chaos. There's an extremely dangerous seal there. Are you sure you want to get it? The Divine Master said, The reason I got this system was because I was born in the chaos. I got close to this system and was recognized as one of its successors. One of its successors? Gu Qinsha asked casually. Does that mean that there are others who are successors of the system? Of course. The Divine Master said, The prehistoric civilization system is a living thing. It has its own thoughts and will, and is extremely powerful. Think about it. The system was seriously injured during the destruction of the heavenly Tao, but it didn't die. How strong is it? Even if you were to repair it now, it would be extremely difficult to completely subdue it. Basically, it would be impossible. Unless you reach the Celestial Master level, then there would be some hope. Once you reach the Celestial Master level, you would be invincible. I can see that. Why don't you retreat now? When you reach the Celestial Master level, you can come find me. I will take you to the ruins of the prehistoric civilization. That would be the real insurance. You really know how to buy time. Gu Qinsha laughed. I know a little about the secrets of the One God system. I also know that you have a lot of control over it. The ruins are real. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. I'll just imprison you and use you. It's safer. I don't like working with people. Besides, you have no value in working with me. Capture him. A surge of energy came from the unseen world, and suddenly he felt a surge of energy. Many runes appeared above the Divine Master's head. These runes were like flowers scattered by a celestial maiden. They filled the void. Even if you fled to the ends of the earth, you wouldn't be able to escape from them. The power of one God eliminates everything. The heavenly Tao is unpredictable, and it changes. A man in a long white robe suddenly appeared above the Divine Master's head. He held a scepter in one hand and a scripture in the other. He was extremely tall, and he seemed to have the aura of a ruler. It was as if he was the Emperor of Heaven, and everything else was fake. This was the name of the most powerful system created by the prehistoric civilization. It was called One God, and it was a virtual puppet to replace the heavenly Tao and the Emperor of Heaven. The power of one God could challenge everything. As soon as it appeared, it blocked Gu Qinsha's smallpox. What a great one God system. The prehistoric civilization studied the Emperor of Heaven, and the heavenly Tao was very profound. They actually created a system called One God to simulate the Emperor of Heaven, and it even has 90% of his charm. Gu Chansha praised, the prehistoric civilization gathered the power of the entire civilization to study the heavenly Tao. If I can obtain the results of this research, it will be very useful for me to calculate the heavenly Tao and defeat the Emperor of Heaven. I'll accept such a gift. Suck. As Gu Chansha spoke, he suddenly sucked in a huge breath. A black hole appeared in his mouth. A white hole, a gray hole, a chaotic hole, a true hole. These wonders could devour everything. The man in the white robe, holding a scepter in one hand and a scripture in the other, was directly sucked into Gu Chansha's mouth and turned into energy. This energy interacted with each other and then integrated into his dragonless mental cultivation technique. The remnant of the dragonless mental cultivation technique actually had some additional words. The prehistoric civilization system had a profound understanding of the Emperor of Heaven's heavenly Tao, far surpassing the current Gu Chansha. After Gu Chansha swallowed this bit of shadow, he had a better understanding of the Emperor of Heaven's Tao. He even had some ideas to counter the Emperor of Heaven. These were the essence of the prehistoric civilization. Good, very good. This thing is a great supplement for me. If I can obtain all the research results and the highest secrets of the prehistoric civilization, becoming a heavenly lord is just around the corner. Gu Chansha waved his hand again, and a crystal ball appeared. This was his seal. He had sealed Ming concubine Wu Dankong in the same way. The celestial master was caught off guard when Gu Chansha swallowed the power left behind by the system. She was far weaker than Gu Chansha. Even though she had many tricks and many abilities, she was still at the heavenly life realm. Gu Chansha could kill her with a flick of his finger. The current Gu Chansha was not even a match for a heavenly primordial realm expert, let alone a heavenly longevity realm expert. He could refine them at will and even kill them. Of course, no one had reached the heavenly origin realm yet. However, as the calamity began, people at that realm would not be far away. However, the prehistoric Dragon Gate was a treasure of the heavenly origin realm. Moreover, it was the kind of peak heavenly origin realm expert that had been refined by Gu Chansha. This showed how fierce Gu Chansha was. Seal. Gu Chansha gently spat out an incantation. Suddenly, the crystal ball shrank, and the figure of the celestial master appeared. The celestial master was struggling in the crystal ball, but even Ming concubine Wu Dankong could not escape. How could she escape Gu Chansha's grasp? Celestial master, stop struggling. Immortal Lord, don't struggle. Listen to me obediently and offer sacrifices to me to increase the power of the celestial calmness department. Otherwise, I'll strip you of all your cultivation and turn you into an ordinary person. Also, the Celestial Designer Institute you established has been stirring up trouble all these years. Your daughter, Gu Huansha, isn't a good person either. She actually allied with the Sun Moon Lord, Gu Tiansha, and colluded with the Crown Prince, Gu Xiansha, in an attempt to overthrow the Celestial Calmness Department. I originally thought that everyone was a member of the Gu clan, so I turned a blind eye and allowed them to do whatever they wanted. But now, it seems that if we don't get rid of them, the world will never be good. Gu Chansha sighed. The calamity has already begun. I will not tolerate such things. I must place righteousness before family. For the world, for the court, for the common people, I have no choice but to be ruthless. Don't hurt Huansha. When the Celestial Master heard Gu Chansha's words, he shuddered. Actually, I still don't think that Gu Taxian can successfully reverse the heavenly Tao. That's why I can't place all my bets on you. I know how big and powerful the prehistoric civilization was. They even created puppets equivalent to the heavenly origin realm. They even created a space as vast as the heavenly realm. But they still failed. The heavenly Tao has not reached its final moment, so the power it is displaying now is not strong enough. If you completely anger the heavenly Tao and become a threat to it, your little power will not be able to compare to the prehistoric civilization. Many people think highly of you, but that is because they do not understand the power of the heavenly Tao. Only in the records of the prehistoric civilization can they understand how terrifying that power is. In the records of the prehistoric civilization, those who defied the heavens were truly in despair. Chapter 862. 1 second remember 09, providing you with an interesting reading. Chapter 859. The power of the system. As for how glorious the prehistoric civilization was, Gu Chunsha was able to deduce it. At that time, this civilization had spread across the various universes and countless spacetimes, creating countless glorious and splendid histories and cultures. Compared to the prehistoric civilization that had existed for who knew how many billions of years, the current Eternal Dynasty Celestial Department was like a baby that had not learned how to walk. The mechanical civilization created countless powerful puppets that far surpassed General Chang Sheng. Other than that, some of the leaders even modified themselves into even stronger existences that surpassed the heavenly kings. However, these leaders banded together to challenge the authority of the heavenly Tao. In the end, the world returned them to chaos and once again created the immortal cultivation civilization. The heavenly Tao was experimenting in these cycles of reincarnation. Gu Qinshan knew very well why the Celestial Master was in such despair. It was because he saw the invincible existence of the prehistoric civilization destroyed under the control of the heavenly Tao. No matter how strong Gu Qinsha was, he wouldn't be stronger than the prehistoric civilization. Therefore, he felt that both Gu Qinsha and Gu Taxian had no hope. However, Gu Qinsha didn't care. To him, the prehistoric civilization was strong, but they went the wrong way. His current accumulation and strength couldn't compare to the prehistoric civilization, but he went the right way. He extracted power from people's hearts and controlled the heavenly Tao. In his heart, the heavenly Tao was just a tool that could be controlled. It had a self-healing mechanism, but it didn't have emotions. As long as Gu Qinsha grasped the key point, he could inject emotions into the heavenly Tao and weaken it. It was a true weakness. As the saying went, if the heavens had emotions, they would grow old. Now, you have no way out. I will temporarily seal you, and you can study in this crystal ball. Although the prehistoric civilization was strong, their failure was their own fault. After I obtain the prehistoric civilization, I will be able to better find the flaws in the heavenly Tao. Gu Qinsha grabbed the crystal ball and looked at the struggling celestial master. He didn't care. Now that I have stabilized the Eastern Baron, I will head into the depths of chaos and find the ruins of the prehistoric civilization that weren't destroyed by the heavenly Tao. Take the system. As he spoke, he walked once again and arrived at another core area of the Black Heaven Earth sect. In the middle of it all was an enormous heart-shaped magical treasure, which was none other than the never-ending heart. The main reason why Gu Qinsha came here was to collect all the treasures and make the infinity treasures even more perfect. With the infinity heart, Gu Qinsha only needed to cast a spell in the dragonless gourd to make the other infinity treasures submit to him involuntarily. Patriarch Heaven and Earth was currently meditating in front of the boundless heart. His universe power was surging as though it was about to form something crucial. That's right, Patriarch Heaven and Earth. I can't believe you're going to form your own core. Gu Qinsha said, looks like you're the one who's hiding your strength. You'll be able to break through to the sky origin stage in the future. Although you were resurrected by the Master of the Sun and Moon Gu Tiansha, it's a miracle that you managed to escape his control. Gu Qinsha, Patriarch Heaven and Earth, opened his eyes. You're here after all. I knew this day would come. The alliance in the Eastern Wilderness isn't stable, and everyone has their own plans. But don't celebrate too early. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to obtain the Infinity Heart. I'd like to see how difficult it will be. Gu Qinsha played with the crystal ball in his hand. Seeing that the Immortal Lord had calmed down, he said, Immortal Lord, you formed an alliance with Patriarch Heaven and Earth. Who do you think Patriarch Heaven and Earth managed to latch onto? How dare you speak to me like that? Patriarch Heaven and Earth is unfathomable. He naturally has a trump card. The immortal Lord watched quietly. She knew that her struggles were futile, and there was no way she could escape Guchench's pursuit. Thus, she could only choose to temporarily show weakness. But she did not submit, nor did she offer sacrifices to Guchencha. Immortal Lord, you should know who will win in the end. Patriarch Heaven and Earth stood up. Guchencha, you want to obtain the Infinity Heart. That's something even your father, Gu Taxian, couldn't do. Back then, Gu Taxian killed Xian Xin because he wanted the Infinity Heart to come into being, but things didn't turn out as he wished. Can you do it today? Naive? Gu Chunxia shook his head. You do have some skills, but compared to those heavenly kings, you're too inexperienced and inexperienced. You don't have enough cultivation, you don't have enough essence, and you don't have enough planning either. I saw through what you're relying on with a single glance. First, you're relying on the Eastern Wasteland Heart. Second, you're secretly colluding with the other heavenly kings. Third, you've even made a promise to some secret existences, such as the underworld. But now that I'm here, no one except the Celestial Arch would dare to save you in front of me. Do you believe me? Do you think you're worth the Emperor Heaven risking being discovered by me, just to save you? East Wilderness might 4 wilds gather, 4 wild annihilation. Kill your enemy in one strike. Patriarch Heaven and Earth sneered and ignored Guchench's words. For streams of vital energy emerged from the depths of the boundless heart and intertwined with one another. Then, space-time was completely locked in place, turning into 4 lightning balls of green, red, black, and white colors. They wrapped around Gu Chansha in midair. Gu Chansha, this is divine lightning formed by the 4 wilds' origin. It's been stored for a long time just for you. It's the same as crushing you with the power of the 4 wilds. Enjoy. Patriarch Heaven and Earth launched a sneak attack. Is that so? You really have a strong foundation. You gathered the 4 wilds' origin for such a long time, and now you're trying to kill me? Or injure me severely? A gourd appeared above Gu Chench's head. The gourd spun slightly, and everything was sucked in cleanly. The divine lightning formed by the 4 wilds' origin became Gu Chench's nourishment. Not bad, not bad. The power of the 4 desolates is indeed great nourishment. I've also taken a liking to the sacrificial offerings that your profound heaven and earth sect has been accumulating for tens of thousands of years. Since you ambushed me, you'll have to pay the price. Ancestor Heaven and Earth, you were already dead, but now you've been revived by Gu Tiansha. I won't kill you, because if I kill you, you might be revived again. Many runes appeared in Gu Chench's eyes all of a sudden. They formed a long rope that was like a dragon that wrapped around Patriarch Heaven and Earth. Infinity Heart, source of the East Wilderness. Patriarch Heaven and Earth's face fell when he saw his trump card being absorbed by Gu Chensha. He leaped and tore open the space-time in front of him, tried to escape. The Infinity Heart shrank into the size of a fist under his power, trying to escape with him. Gu Chensha was determined to get the Infinity Heart. So how could he let Patriarch Heaven and Earth escape? The ropes shot out from his eyes, spread out slightly, intertwining and turning into countless huge nets that penetrated into the depths of the space-time turbulence. The space-time turbulence was like a violent ocean with turbulent undercurrents, but the ancient dust sand was like a huge fishing net that could catch all powerful existences that could be caught in it. Patriarch Heaven and Earth was not a big fish to Gu Chensha, but the Infinity Heart was a real big fish. However, the Heart of Infinity was a truly big fish. It was also the last key point for Gu Chensha to peek at the Celestial Emperor's throne. Therefore, he used his dragonless mental skill to form a huge net that locked down the layers of space-time. Even if Patriarch Heaven and Earth tried to escape, it would be useless. Crack! In the blink of an eye, Patriarch Heaven and Earth had no idea how far he had fled through the space-time turbulence. He had even entered the cosmic tide and used the Heart of Infinity to protect himself, making it so that the violent cosmic tide couldn't hurt him at all. The Infinity Heart is indeed the most mysterious existence among the endless 36 treasures. Patriarch Heaven and Earth held the infinity heart in his hands. I can travel anywhere with the help of the heaven realm in the blink of an eye, and nobody can hurt me. Is that so? A voice was heard. Gu Qinsha. Patriarch Heaven and Earth looked up and realized that he had somehow fallen into a net. The net was only the size of a fist, and he had shrunk, making him look like a fish caught in a net. He thought that he had escaped, but in reality, he had leaped through countless spaces, and yet he had not escaped Gu Dusha's net. The net landed in Gu Qinsha's hand, right next to the crystal ball. Then Gu Qinsha took a deep breath and sucked the infinity heart into his stomach. After consuming the infinity heart, Gu Qinsha seemed to have transformed. He wasn't in a hurry to deal with Patriarch Heaven and Earth. Instead, he blurred into the space-time turbulence and said, "Immortal Lord, I have all of your memories. Now, I'm going to go into primal chaos to find the things left behind by the ancient civilization and acquire the systems of the one God. But before that, you should have a good talk with Patriarch Heaven and Earth and get him to submit to me. The profound gate of heaven and earth will serve as an example and truly belong to the calming immortal department. All the profound gates in the eastern wilderness will also belong to the calming immortal department. If you can do that, I'll directly raise you to the heaven's origin realm, and I won't cripple Gu Huansha's cultivation. Gu Qinsha, wait until you have subdued the system left behind by your prehistoric civilization. Let me tell you, the relic and the system are extremely powerful. Even with your current cultivation base, you will definitely fall into it. Once you fall, your calming immortal department will lose your leadership and will definitely be torn apart." The immortal master warned him. "You don't need to worry about that. If you can think of it, why can't I?" Gu Qinsha said with a smile. Mobile users, go to M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 863. Geniuses Remember in a Second. If you like it, go to provide you with exciting novels to read. Chapter 860. Prehistoric Ruins. It would take Gu Qinsha some time to refine the edict, but he wasn't in a hurry. He needed to find the ruins left behind by the prehistoric civilization, as well as the crystallization of all wisdom, the system of the one God. The prehistoric civilization was vast, and they had a deep understanding of the Tao of Heaven. If they wanted to replace the Tao of Heaven, capture it, or even destroy it, they would have to go through billions of years of analysis. Gu Qinsha needed that experience. The prehistoric civilization had accumulated a vast amount of experience with the Tao of Heaven. The fact that the system of the one God hadn't been destroyed in the space-time chaos of the universe meant that the civilization had already gained enlightenment of some sort of deathless foundation. If Gu Qinsha could gather all of the information on the prehistoric civilization and fuse it into his Dragonless Heart Sutra, then he would be able to gather the glorious experience of that civilization for billions of years. He would also be able to peer into the supreme secrets of the Tao of Heaven. That was why he had been planning to acquire the ruins and the system of the one God for a long time. Taking the sealed Immortal Lord and Patriarch Heaven and Earth with him, Gu Qinsha left the eastern wastelands. The Black Gate of Heaven and Earth. The Black Gate of Heaven and Earth was a huge divine item. Although it couldn't compare to the Yorwild's Dragon Gate, after years of hard work and transformation, it had become a very powerful existence in a medium-level world. Furthermore, it was the core of the Eastern Wastelands, nourished by the essence of the Eastern Wastelands. Throughout the dynasties, the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth had taken in countless talents from the divine central continent. Now, the core disciples of the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth were all of the blood of the divine prefecture. Originally, Gu Qinsha had planned to take in the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth and fuse it with the Celestial Commerce Department. That way, his power would increase, and he would gain a lot of nourishment. But he was still planning to take the Eastern Wastelands along with it into the Dragonless Gourd. Whoosh! His body began to move in the space-time turbulence. Each movement was equivalent to a celestial flying for hundreds of years, or even thousands of years. The space-time turbulence was truly endless. Even an Empyrean with a heavenly longevity could not explore it completely, let alone a heavenly longevity. Even a heavenly primordial cultivator entering the space-time turbulence was like a small fish in the ocean. The scale of the space-time turbulence was even larger than the heavenly realm. After all, the heavenly realm was also wrapped in the space-time turbulence. Worlds after worlds, minor dimensions, dimensional dimensions, boundless dimensions, all of them bobbed up and down in the turbulent flows of space and time. Every moment, countless worlds were born and countless worlds were destroyed. Who knew how many treasures from the destruction of the ancient world were hidden in the space-time turbulence? There were also divine artifacts left behind by fiend god experts and many connate spirit treasures produced during the Chaos Big Bang. However, to Gu Chunsha, this was not a good thing. With his current cultivation, he could create even better treasures with just a thought. For example, a heaven longevity realm, primordial chaos, ancient creature might spend tens of thousands of years to create a treasure. However, a casual treasure created by Gu Chunsha was 10 times stronger than a treasure created by a primordial chaos ancient creature. That was why he didn't care about the countless treasures in the depths of the chaotic streams of space. In fact, he didn't even bother with the Permitha, golden Permitha, a dimensional dimension left behind by the ancient Buddhist sect. As far as he was concerned, there was no point in taking something that he could create himself. At the moment, the only things he was interested in were the systems of the one God, the boundless treasure, and the primordial chaos tree. Considering the level of his cultivation base, he couldn't create the Urwild's Dragon Gate, the boundless treasure, the decree of heaven sacrifice, and the primordial chaos tree. Of course, once he became a celestial, things would be different. Even the Emperor of Heaven would fear a celestial like Gu Chunsha. If I can become an Empyrean, I'll have this chance. If I can pry into the ruins of the prehistoric civilization, I'll be able to do so. If I can get a glimpse of the ruins of the ancient civilization, I'll definitely be able to break through and become a celestial. Gu Chunsha could already see some of the profundities of the systems of the one God from the Immortal Lord. He didn't necessarily need the systems, but he definitely needed information on the Tao of Heaven from the ancient civilization. The crystallization of the wisdom of the ancient civilization was the most valuable thing to him, not the systems themselves. Of course, after taking the systems, his dragonless gourd would reach its limit, and he would be able to suppress the Emperor of Heaven and the Heavenly Court. Gu Chunsha's body flickered, and after some time passed, the space-time turbulence vanished, as though he had reached an end. At the end of the space-time turbulence, primal chaos energy was everywhere, so deep that it was impossible to see where it ended. Gu Chunsha knew that this was the primal chaos that surrounded the space-time turbulence. Theoretically speaking, the entire universe was in such a state, with the heaven world as the center, surrounded by space-time turbulence, within which floated countless worlds and dimensions. Outside of space-time turbulence was primal chaos. The heaven world was limited, and so was the space-time turbulence. But primal chaos was truly limitless. Furthermore, it was constantly evolving, and under the influence of some mysterious power, it seeped into the space-time turbulence to form all sorts of worlds. Because of that, the space-time turbulence was constantly expanding. Gu Chunsha arrived at the edge of the space-time turbulence, preparing to enter the primal chaos. Ordinary celestials would find it difficult to cross the space-time turbulence and enter primal chaos. If they were in the heaven world, which was the endless mainland, it would take hundreds of thousands of years to cross the space-time turbulence to reach the edge of primal chaos. Even for celestials, this was a very taxing task. This is the true form of primal chaos. Gu Chunsha looked at the edge of the space-time turbulence, where boundless primal chaos energy flowed. There was no black or white, no color. It was pure primal chaos. Bam! Gu Chunsha was still at the edge of primal chaos. Suddenly, The primal chaos in front of him seemed to be triggered by some unknown power, causing a huge explosion. This explosion simply surpassed the primal desolate deity thunder of the primal desolate dragon gate. It was a pure power that living beings and treasures could not unleash. Gu Qinsha was shocked. If not for the fact that his cultivation base was extremely high, he might have been destroyed by this primal chaos explosion. Because within this primal chaos explosion, many worlds were suddenly born. There were minor kiliocosms and medium kiliocosms. The moment the worlds were born, a cosmic tide swept over violently, causing space-time to collapse. It was unknown where these worlds were swept to, drifting with the waves. Some of the weaker worlds died in the cosmic tide, while others survived and gave birth to many living beings, forming a brand new world. Many ancient worlds came about in the same way. Ancient worlds were born in primal chaos, heading towards the end of time, while new worlds were born, alternating with each other. This was the truth of the primal chaos of the universe. As Gu Qinsha looked at this strange scene of worlds exploding within the primal chaos, he suddenly understood. But this was only the surface of the primal chaos. To find the ruins of the prehistoric civilization, he needed to enter the primal chaos. The interior of the primal chaos was even more dangerous. Not to mention the violent explosions, there were even some ancient life forms hidden within, as well as strange and powerful existences. The Immortal Master and Wan Senshi were both ancient life forms born within the primal chaos. But since ancient times, it was unknown how many powerful ancient life forms had been unable to leave the primal chaos, let alone reach the heaven realm. Of course, there were also some ancient life forms that had left the primal chaos and wandered the turbulent flows of space-time, searching for worlds to devour. These worlds created by primal chaos explosions were like juicy fruits that were loved by these ancient life forms. As soon as Gu Qinsha stepped into the primal chaos, it lost all its luster. There was no light, no brightness. Everything was filled with primal chaos. Everywhere was boundless, and an endless pressure came crashing down. Celestial venerables could barely move, and only those at the heavenly longevity realm could barely move. Once one entered the primal chaos, it was like an ordinary person sinking into a swamp, unable to escape. In fact, there was no sense of direction, and it was impossible to find a way out. Inside the primal chaos, everything was a paste. When Ancestor Heaven and Immortal Master saw Gu Qinsha walking into the primal chaos, a look of shock appeared on their faces. Once you enter the primal chaos, it is very difficult to escape. Basically, you can't find your way out. You can only rely on the power created by the primal chaos explosions to be sucked into the turbulent flows of space-time. Once you enter the primal chaos, you won't be able to come out. In my opinion, the primal chaos is just a slightly bigger swamp. Gu Qinsha strolled leisurely in the primal chaos. With him as the center, all the primal chaos elemental energy sunk down, giving birth to endless worlds. Those worlds were like illusions, born and destroyed as they pleased, illuminating the primal chaos in the distance. Immortal Lord, all you can do is sense the systems of the one God and gain power from them. You don't actually have the systems of the one God. You're being controlled by them, and they're trying to restore you to your peak state. That's why it needs experts to do its bidding. You're being controlled by the system of the one God. So you established the calming immortal department and infiltrated the imperial court. Then you used technology to provide the system with destiny. Unfortunately, that's just Father's plan. Do you really think the destiny of a Yonko is that easy to obtain? Gu Qinsha seemed to be able to see through everything. Immortal Master, your fate is being controlled by the system, and you're not even aware of it. How sad. Gu Qinsha flickered into motion as he entered the primal chaos. Apparently, the primal chaos was terrified of him, and in fact, seemed to be subservient to him. A moment later, the primal chaos in front of him grew even more intense. An enormous battleship appeared in front of Gu Chansha, traversing inconceivable dimensions and space-time. This was the location of the prehistoric civilization. Reading. A better reading experience. Chapter 864. 1 second remember 09. To provide you with exciting reading. Chapter 861. Creating a celestial not bad. Not bad. The ruins of the prehistoric civilization are actually an enormous battleship, and it has a deathless aura to it. Heaven and earth are destroyed, but I'm not. The great Tao is decaying, but I'm not. No wonder it was the crystallization of the previous civilization. Gu Chunsha looked at the battleship from a distance. The battleship was crystalline and filled with smoke and lightning. It didn't seem to have any aura of decay or destruction, but rather, it seemed to be brimming with vitality. The immortal lord claimed to control the systems left behind by the prehistoric civilization, but from what Gu Chunsha could tell, the immortal lord was only in the heavenly longevity realm. How could he possibly control the systems of the previous civilization that could challenge the Tao of heaven? The immortal lord was simply being controlled by the systems and was nothing more than a pawn. These are the ruins of the prehistoric civilization, Gu Chunsha, the immortal lord said from within the sealed crystal ball. But I must warn you not to enter. If you do, you'll be trapped. The system of the one God is alive, not inanimate. It seems you realize that you're nothing more than a pawn of the system. If I hadn't helped you, then when the great calamity came, the system would have squeezed out your soul and flesh, turning you into a puppet-like existence. Even if you were at the heaven longevity realm and were an ancient creature born from the primal chaos, you wouldn't be a match for the system. The might and terror of the system could even pose a great threat to the Celestial Emperor. It was destroyed in the previous civilization, but it didn't die. Now, with the help of some methods, it has begun to revive. Gu Chunsha said, "The system's machinations are profound, and I discovered a lot of clues about it on you. Otherwise, I would have fallen for its ploy. Because of the Celestial Designer Institution, it stole a lot of the destiny of our nation. No wonder I've always felt that the institution was up to no good." What do you think you're doing, Gu Chunsha? The Immortal Lord had no idea what Gu Chunsha was up to. This system has already awakened, becoming a terrifying and powerful existence. It has spread its fishing net, waiting for some people to walk right into it. Gu Chunsha continued, "Between the heavens and earth, there's already a fourth power. The first is the Emperor of Heaven. The second is our celestial pacification agency in Yonko. The third is the Lord of the Sun Moon, Gu Tiansha, and the fourth is this massive system and battleship. 09, small, Saynet. 09, it wants to revive the prehistoric civilization and once again shine with glory and brilliance, completing what the previous civilization failed to do. This is its biggest chance. If I fight to the death with the Emperor of Heaven, it will be able to gain a huge advantage. If it succeeds in swallowing and digesting both the Emperor of Heaven and me, it might really be able to turn the tables, replace the heavenly axiom, operate the rules, and expand to the limit." As he spoke, Gu Chunsha flew into the huge battleship amidst the chaos. This battleship did not seem to have any defenses, allowing Gu Chunsha to enter freely. When Gu Chunsha flew into the battleship, he found that the heavens and earth were spinning, and he had entered a huge space. This space was silvery white, and there were many huge pillars standing on the plaza. This plaza extended endlessly until the end of time and space. This is the place. I often feel like I'm returning home. The Celestial Master seemed to have returned to a familiar home, but in reality, she had never been here before. Gu Chunsha looked around. This is the interior of the prehistoric civilization ruins. It seems that the system has recovered a lot. He casually grabbed, and suddenly a silvery white air current was caught in his hand, giving off a dazzling light. This is the fate of many worlds gathered together. It seems that the system has cultivated many representatives in the space-time turbulence, and these representatives have unified the world, worshipping the system, believing that the system is the heavenly axiom. This way, the system will slowly recover. Other than that, the system has even penetrated into various remote places in the heavenly realm. It has also chosen a representative. Amazing! Gu Chunsha could almost see through many things through the air current in the prehistoric civilization ruins. Beep, 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 beep. As Gu Chunsha spoke, an extremely vast will suddenly swept through the square. Enemies have invaded the interior. Kill them. Kill them. The voice was very mechanical, and there was no emotion in it, but it was brewing something that could not be explained clearly. Buzz, 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 buzz. The pillars in the plaza immediately shone brightly, and layers upon layers of human figures appeared. These figures were all strong men, very well proportioned, with balanced muscles. Their bodies were wrapped in a ball of light, which was green and purple in color, and there were 360 of them. Puppets, celestial, venerable energy. Patriarch Heaven and Earth, who was sealed in the crystal ball, was shocked when he saw that the puppets were all celestial venerables. These were puppets, and there were 360 of them. 360 celestial venerables? This was simply terrifying to the extreme. Is this the power of the prehistoric civilization ruins? Gu Chunsha looked at the 360 celestial venerable puppets in front of him, and his gaze suddenly became sharp. Celestial venerables were existences that had transcended certain restraints. Even the current Gu Chunsha could not create celestial venerables on a large scale. The current celestial venerables in the Communist department were Zhuge Wenhong, Chong Weiyang, Do Yu, the king of common people, and the martial sage. The 6 of them were very lucky, and they had used the resources of the Communist department to become celestial venerables with great difficulty. Gu Chunsha wanted to promote the general of common people to celestial venerables, but it was still beyond his power. There were 360 celestial venerable level puppets in the prehistoric civilization ruins, and there would be more puppets of higher levels appearing in the future. However, these puppets don't have the power of a sacrifice. In other words, they only have the combat power of a celestial venerables. They can't produce their own sacrifices, so they're just empty shells. Gu Chunsha could see through everything with a single glance. To the current Gu Chunsha, the combat power of celestial venerables wasn't the most important. In fact, it was negligible. This was because after Gu Chunsha had devoured the primeval dragon gate and refined the dragonless gourd, he could kill celestial venerables and heavenly longevity realm antiques with a flick of his finger. However, the sacrifices of celestial venerables were a huge source of wealth to him. If he could have one more celestial venerables to sacrifice to him, he could extract immortal essence from the power of the sacrifice. Right now, these 360 celestial venerables didn't mean much to him. Without the power of a sacrifice, they were just empty shells. However, he wouldn't let them go. These puppets contained the highest crystallization and wisdom of the prehistoric civilization. As long as he captured these 360 puppets and studied them, he could peek into the structure of the prehistoric civilization. Apart from that, he could also make the common people martial ascend to the celestial venerables realm. At that time, he would have more confidence in suppressing the divine prefecture. As expected of the prehistoric civilization ruins, existences that challenge the heavenly Taos. Although the puppets created don't have the power of a sacrifice and aren't living beings, their combat power is still extremely terrifying. They can sweep through any world. Gu Chunsha sighed in admiration. This was a power and manufacturing ability that even he didn't have. 360 celestial venerables appeared and suddenly rushed over. These celestial venerables formed a large formation that communicated with some of the power within the ruins. Instantly, a diagram was formed. This diagram was in the form of a 6-pointed star that contained the 6 supreme principles of heaven and earth. The 6-pointed star diagram slowly descended. Gu Chunsha felt a pressure as heavy as a mountain and as vast as the sea, but he just smiled. let alone 360 celestial venerables. I don't even care about celestial longevity realm puppets. Unless you send 360 heaven origin realm puppets, I'll turn around and leave. However, this ruin doesn't have that kind of power. Even in the future heavenly court, there aren't many heaven origin realm experts. There are only the Lord of the Sun and Moon, the Empress of Heaven, the various heavenly concubines, and the 9 heavenly kings. As he spoke, a rune appeared above his head. It was the Dragonless Heart Sutra. In the blink of an eye, this Dragonless Heart Sutra turned into beautiful mountains and rivers, all worlds and time, all living beings, humans, demons, gods, immortals, cultivators within the Dragonless Heart Sutra. All living beings let out cries of transcendence, as well as the wishes of all living beings. In the deepest depths of the hearts of all living beings, there was a desire to pursue great freedom, unfettered freedom. This desire was something that they themselves wouldn't realize, but Gu Chansha had refined it and turned it into the Dragonless Heart Sutra's chapter. This magnificent, indescribable, inconceivable, unsurpassable, and unreachable chapter swept out. In just an instant, the 6 starlight array diagram fell into it. Then, the 360 Empyrean level puppets were about to be fused with the Dragonless Heart Sutra's chapter. But at this time, the 360 celestial venerables suddenly vanished without a trace, leaving Gu Chansha completely empty-handed. It was just like how the great spirit god had disappeared in order to escape pursuit, dying and fusing with the heavenly Tao. Oh, are you testing me? Are you afraid that I'll capture this puppet and pry out your secrets? Gu Chansha sneered. I've seen this move before, and I've also thought of a way to break it. Come on out. His dragonless talisman spread out, causing the text to transform into many words that vanished. They seeped into the depths of the layered void, and then fiercely returned. Each text wrapped around a puppet and flew back. These were none other than the 360 Empyrean level puppets that had vanished. Mobile users, please browse them. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 865. 1 second to remember 09 to provide you with exciting reading. Chapter 862. A heaven-defying being, the immortal master and patriarch heaven and earth watched as Gu Chansha pulled the 360 heavenly venerable puppets out of the void. The puppets struggled violently, but they still turned into an essay and fused into the Dragonless Heart Sutra essay. The Dragonless Heart Sutra seemed to contain all civilization, creation, cultivation, enlightenment, primordial spirit, and principles. Everything could be comprehended from the Dragonless Heart Sutra. This Heart Sutra was the general outline of all things, the source of all Taos, the heart of cultivation, and the foundation of immortality. The 360 heavenly venerable puppets were broken down and melted just like that, becoming a part of the Dragonless Heart Sutra. The immortal master and patriarch heaven and earth sensed that Gu Chansha's Dragonless Heart Sutra seemed to be much more complete in an instant. The creation of heavenly venerable puppets. I see. The prehistoric civilization is indeed impressive. They actually grasped some loopholes in the heavenly Tao and created a miraculous path. Gu Chansha said, "The creation techniques are very useful to me. This is indeed my blessed land. With this, the difficulty of becoming a heavenly venerable has decreased even more." Gu Chansha kept the Dragonless Heart Sutra essay into his body and strolled forward once again. This isn't the center of the relic. I have to find the core system of the relic. After refining it, I can control the entire relic and obtain the true crystallization of the prehistoric civilization's wisdom. Gu Chansha said to the immortal master, "The 360 heavenly venerable puppets just now were just the first line of defense. There will be even more powerful killing moves after that. If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid I'll meet some old acquaintances next. These old acquaintances also want to obtain the prehistoric civilization's relic. They might even be afraid that I'll obtain it. The old acquaintances that Gu Chansha mentioned could be some heavenly kings, as well as the master of the sun and moon, Gu Tiansha, or some other powerful existences. Gu Qinshan knew that the Emperor of Heaven was watching his every move. If he got his hands on the prehistoric civilization system, all the Emperor of Heaven's advantages would be gone. Then he would be at a disadvantage, and Gu Qinsha would slowly nibble away at him. Therefore, the Emperor of Heaven would never allow himself to obtain the system of this prehistoric civilization, or even the crystallization of all its wisdom. He continued walking and left the square. After passing through the square, he came to another space. This space was also very vast. In the center was a huge altar. Above the altar floated light balls that looked like stars. Each light ball was only the size of a firefly, but it could be seen that within these light balls, many living beings were flourishing. They were all using the hands of technological civilization to develop the world. These balls of light are agents chosen by the system. These agents rule their respective worlds, develop their technological civilizations, and condense the fate of a nation. They will break through space and gather here, forming many balls of light. The balls of light here are as vast as the stars. This means that the system has already taken control of many worlds. Gu Qinsha observed carefully. He found that the light balls were different in color. Some were white, which was a minor kiliocosm. Some were green, which was a medium kiliocosm. Some were pure gold, which was a major kiliocosm. Some were purple gold, which was the peak of the major kiliocosm. In the space-time turbulence, countless worlds had been infiltrated by the prehistoric civilization system. Are those the many continents in the heaven realm? Gu Qinsha saw that among these star-like light balls, there were also light balls that were fiery red. That color represented the many continents in the heaven realm. In the heaven realm, there were countless continents. Apart from the four wilds and the divine prefecture, there were many places like the Inferno continent. The population of those continents could easily reach hundreds of billions or even trillions. If all the people in the heaven realm were to be counted, it would be an indescribable number. And many of these continents had been infiltrated by the system, and it had cultivated agents there. Found it. This is the divine prefecture, the fate of our Yonko. Gu Qinsha's eyes instantly locked onto the most dazzling existence in the light ball. This light ball was a ball of fire, crimson in color. It could burn everything. Within this ball of fire, the divine land, the heavenly craftsman institution, and all the creatures that use the technological and civilized items created by the heavenly craftsman institution could be vaguely seen. This was the fate that the system had stolen. After so many years, it was unknown how much fate it had stolen. Of course, this was the result of Gu Taxian's tacit approval. Gu Taxian had established the Celestial Designer Institution to borrow the prehistoric technology to fuse with the immortal Tao civilization. In his view, the prehistoric technology had its own merits and couldn't be abandoned. That was why he had allowed the system to steal the fate of the nation. This was also part of his plan. This fate belongs to our Yonko, and it surpasses all other worlds. Even worlds with trillions of people, their fate and power of worship can't compare to our Yonko. Gu Qinsha's eyes swept over, and he nodded inwardly. This was the benefit of the divine prefecture. After occupying it, the fate of the divine prefecture's imperial court would surpass that of other nations. The Dragonless Heart Sutra once again appeared above his head. From the outside, the Dragonless Heart Sutra looked like a text. Wherever the text reached, living beings, the void, matter, and even all tangible and intangible entities would be affected by the text and would experience transcendence and freedom. Gu Qinsha's Dragonless Heart Sutra actually surpassed all Taoist techniques and martial arts, and was even superior to the Son of Heaven's God bestowal art. Gu Qinsha had absorbed so much knowledge and experience that it was impossible to say how much knowledge he had gained. If the system of the one God was the highest intelligence of the previous mechanical civilization, Then the Dragonless Heart Sutra was the crystallization and enlightenment of the cultivation civilization of this era. Gu Chencha's acquisition of the system's knowledge was tantamount to combining the highest intelligence of two civilizations. That was how he could replace the Emperor of Heaven and reform the Tao of Heaven. Right now, he was going to absorb all of the chi flow in this place, and then slowly consume the system. As he entered deeper into the ruins, he had previously collected 360 Empyrean-level puppets and gained enlightenment on how to create Empyrean-level puppets. This further improved his Dragonless Heart Sutra, and as a result, his confidence in obtaining these ruins was much higher. Even as he was collecting the glowing spheres, a mist sprang up, and the spheres vanished. The will of the system couldn't possibly allow Gu Chencha to collect the chi flow that he had worked so hard to accumulate, so it activated some other ability. You want to hide? I'll just dig out everything inside of you. Let's see what you can do to me. After all, you're just a system, and you haven't recovered yet. Let's see how many tricks you have up your sleeve. Gu Chencha made a grasping motion, causing space-time to freeze. The glowing spheres were pulled out of the mist, and were just about to fall into his hand. Suddenly, a resplendent holy light descended, cutting off the connection between Gu Chencha and the glowing spheres. Then, the holy light condensed into a form. It was a white-robed young man, and he also held a crooked scepter in his hand. There was also a scripture in his hand, and there were countless holy hymns being sung on it. This wasn't a golem, but a mark left behind by an almighty figure from a previous civilization. The white-robed young man's aura was profound, but it didn't fit in with the current world. Gu Chencha could see that if he weren't in the ruins of this worship, he would likely suffer a backlash from the heavenly Taos the moment he stepped out, causing devastating damage and becoming a tonic for the heavenly Taos. This is the highest carrier of a civilization. You are also a heavenly fire, an existence that isn't willing to be bound by the heavenly Taos. We can join hands and accomplish many great things. We shouldn't attack each other, otherwise we won't have any hope of transcending. The white-robed young man's mechanical voice was still devoid of any emotion. Of course we can cooperate. I came here today to seek cooperation. My Dragonless Heart Sutra is the highest crystallization, and you also have something similar. How about we exchange and make up for each other's losses? Gu Chencha said calmly, "This is the most intimate cooperation possible. Our knowledge will be combined, and both sides will receive a great boost. Since you want to cooperate, let's start the exchange." Exchange? The white-robed young man laughed. No, no, no. The value of your body is far inferior to ours. If we exchange, we'll suffer a great loss. The exchange I'm talking about is for you to immediately sacrifice your Yonko to us and develop our civilization. That way, all of the nation's fate will be gathered in our system. That way, we can protect you from being killed by the heavenly Taos. Your current strength is too weak, and you can die at any time. That's why you need our protection. Looks like you don't have any sincerity. Gu Chencha shook his head. You're struggling at death's door under the destruction of the heavenly Taos. You don't even dare to enter the heavenly realm, playing dead in the primal chaos. If you're sincere, I can cooperate with you. For example, you can hand over all of the worlds you control to us, the Tranquil Immortal Department, to manage. The power of sacrifice will definitely be millions of times greater than if you manage it yourself. Also, hand over all of your technological civilizations to me, and then refine this system for me. After I defeat the heavenly Taos, I'll resurrect you all. Looks like we can't come to an agreement. The white-robed young man stared at Gu Chencha for a long time, then said, "Only by trapping you here, extracting your source, and then taking control of your divine prefecture and the imperial court, do you really think that with your current cultivation, you can obtain the crystallization of our wisdom in these ruins? Then let's give it a try." Gu Chencha moved his palm, and immediately, the Dragonless Heart Sutra expanded again, sweeping towards the white-robed young man. Mobile users, please browse read for a better reading experience. Chapter 866. 1 second remember 09, providing you with exciting reading. Chapter 863. The 12 Lords Gu Qinsha did not dare to let his guard down when he entered the ruins of the prehistoric civilization. He had cultivated to the divergent level, condensed the incomplete dragonless mental cultivation technique, devoured the endless heart, and perfected the endless 36 treasures. He had also devoured the prehistoric dragon gate and the heavenly sacrifice talisman. However, the savagery of the prehistoric civilization was far above that of the 3 great divine artifacts. For example, the prehistoric dragon gate, the heavenly sacrifice talisman, and the Hongmeng tree were merely the pinnacle of the boundless thousand worlds. They were powerhouses at the pinnacle of the divine primordial realm. However, the ruins of the prehistoric civilization should have been comparable to the heavenly realm in the previous civilization. In other words, at its peak, the battleship that Gu Qinsha had entered would have been as powerful as the endless world, or even more powerful. Now that the battleship had been severely damaged, its power was not even 1/10,000th of what it had been before. Otherwise, the current Gu Qinsha would not have been able to enter it, unless he became a celestial master. The ruins of the prehistoric civilization were filled with danger, but if one obtained something, the harvest would be huge. Gu Qinsha had obtained 360 celestial master puppets and understood how the prehistoric civilization created celestial master puppets, allowing his cultivation to improve once again. Now, he was salivating at the sight of this white-robed young man. The white-robed young man in front of him was one of the supreme leaders of the prehistoric civilization. The mark he had left behind was slowly accumulating power in an attempt to be completely resurrected. This mark of this person contained extremely rich knowledge, possibly more than the knowledge that Gu Qinsha had accumulated in his lifetime. In the prehistoric civilization, there were billions of humans. These humans had gone through billions of years of thinking and experimenting and finally condensed the battleship in front of him. As one of the supreme leaders of the battleship, Gu Qinsha had to capture this mark, refine it, and make it his own knowledge. Dragonless mental cultivation technique, dragonless heaven and earth. Gu Qinsha's dragonless heart sutra gathered together, wrapping around the white-robed young man in the blink of an eye, contracting inward, breaking down, obliterating, crushing. In our eyes, your cultivation civilization, or perhaps the immortal Tao civilization, is too weak. Perhaps you have a lot of potential, but you lack the time to grow. Of course, this is our chance. We'll devour you and take your legacy. We'll be able to analyze your structure and thoughts, as well as your spirit and heart. From your body, I can feel that there are many wonderful things in your mind. If I obtain you, I will be able to come back to life quickly. Remember, my name is Master Dan. In this warship, including me, there are a total of 12 masters. The white-robed young man looked as if he had breathed in fresh air. It was as if Gu Qinsha's dragonless heart sutra did not have any destructive power, but instead gave him the best nourishment. The scepter in his hand swayed slightly, and many holy humans the size of mosquitoes appeared. These humans had light and wings, and they chanted holy hymns. These hymns intertwined with the Dragonless Heart Sutra and actually produced a power that swallowed and spat each other. Then, the codex in his other hand unfolded. There were no legal stripes on the codex, but it was a piece of white paper. However, on this white paper, the Dragonless Heart Sutra began to be copied. The white-robed young man, called Master Dan, was absorbing the knowledge of Gu Qinsha's Dragonless Heart Sutra to evolve himself. In that instant, the body of the Master Dan young man became clearer. He had already absorbed the remnant of Gu Qinsha's Dragonless Heart Sutra and gained a lot of knowledge from it. This made him feel as if he was breaking free from some mysterious curse and destruction. Wonderful, wonderful. The white-robed young man's body became clearer, and he was very happy. Is this the highest crystallization of the cultivation civilization? There are many blind spots that our civilization has not thought about. Not bad, not bad. I've obtained your knowledge, and I'll reward you. You can become my puppet." The codex in his hand opened, and slowly it covered the sky and the earth, as if it was going to suck Gu Chunsha in and make him a page in the codex. Gu Chunsha was not surprised at all. Watching the Master Dan young man absorb the knowledge of the Dragonless Heart Sutra, a smile appeared on his face. Knowledge and civilization are meant to be spread. You've absorbed my knowledge, and I'm happy to enjoy it. However, while you're absorbing my knowledge and thinking about my Dragonless Heart Sutra, you'll also use your knowledge to make deductions. This way, your knowledge and experience will enrich the Dragonless Heart Sutra, allowing me to obtain your knowledge as well. I'm afraid you don't understand this. Although you're the highest leader of the prehistoric technological and mechanical civilization, the ultimate secret of civilization is to spread and share. You've both made a mistake on this point. In the future, my Dragonless Heart Sutra can be cultivated by everyone, even you. Any living creature in the world will become stronger, and it will naturally expand the heavenly way, causing the limited heavenly way to become limitless. As Gu Chunsha spoke, the Dragonless Heart Sutra suddenly expanded, and many chapters on battleships, technology, and manufacturing appeared within it. In the battle with the Master Dan young man, Gu Chunsha had actually gradually grasped his knowledge, allowing his Dragonless Heart Sutra to incorporate the true core content of the prehistoric technological and mechanical civilization. Although the immortal master had obtained the power and knowledge of the prehistoric civilization, this knowledge was merely superficial to the Master Dan young man. The most powerful aspect of the prehistoric civilization was to create celestial, venerable, heavenly longevity, and even heavenly primordial realm puppets. They could tear through the endless space, penetrate into the depths of the heavenly way's rules, break through all restraints, and create the deepest level of freedom and liberation. These things were impossible for the Immortal Master. To the entire prehistoric civilization, the Immortal Master was nothing more than a chess piece and puppet. But what Gu Chunsha had obtained from the Master Dan young man was indeed the true essence of the prehistoric technological and mechanical civilization. This essence involved manufacturing, rules, and the study of the heavenly way, as well as all sorts of knowledge that resisted the heavenly way, replaced the heavenly way, and attempted to transcend. In an instant, Gu Chunsha's Dragonless Heart Sutra skyrocketed, and as he counterattacked, a wisp of the celestial venerable aura emerged from his body. He did not immediately ascend to the celestial venerable level, but instead condensed a wisp of the celestial venerable aura. But it was this change that greatly increased his battle prowess. Wherever dragons go, everything will be converted. Gu Chunsha's body also dispersed, and his entire body merged into the Dragonless Heart Sutra. He himself was a text, and two civilizations. The immortal Tao cultivation civilization, the technological and mechanical civilization. The two civilizations were fused together by his Dragonless Heart Sutra, complementing each other. In an instant, his killing power increased tenfold. Crack! The Dragonless Heart Sutra twisted. The scepter and code in the Master Dan young man's hands immediately shattered and merged into the Dragonless Heart Sutra. What? Of course, the Master Dan young man's true form was in grave danger. It was at this moment that another white-robed old man appeared. This old man also held a scepter in his hand and a book of laws in his hand. However, the Master Dan young man's scepter and code were bronze, whereas this old man's were black iron. Sovereign, you've appeared as well. Sovereign, the white-robed youth said to the white-robed elder. This old man was known as the Lord God. Gu Chunsha had learned that in the ruins of the prehistoric civilization, there had once been 12 magisters. Their names, or perhaps their code names, all had the surname Master. Now, there were two of them, the Master Dan and the Lord God. There were definitely 10 more of them. The 12 magisters had established a council and had control over the core of the battleship, which was the system of the one God. In some ways, the 12 magisters were like the 9 heavenly kings of the future heavenly court, with the system of the one God being the Emperor Heaven. and this battleship was the true form of the future heavenly court. However, in terms of fighting prowess, the battleship surpassed the future heavenly court and could even pose a threat to the Tao of Heaven. "I can't believe you dared to capture my representative," the white-robed old man called the Lord God said, waving his scepter and code to block Gu Chench's Dragonless Heart Sutra. The representative he was referring to was none other than the Immortal Lord. Even as Gu Chansha fought the Immortal Lord unleashed the power of the ancient civilization systems, and the white-robed old man appeared, which was none other than the Lord God. "Two of you? Even better, you have a bit of knowledge. I just acquired the Master Dan's knowledge, but that's only a small part. If I took all of the knowledge of the 12 Magisters, it would only be a third of your technological civilization. The true knowledge is stored in the system of the One God." By this point, Gu Chansha was nowhere to be seen, as if he were a beautiful piece of writing. Civilization spread across the world. At this moment, Gu Chansha was the embodiment of knowledge. His knowledge contained 2 civilizations, and anyone could learn from it. His knowledge represented the truth, true wisdom, and transcendence. Like a wave, like a tide, it was irreversible. At that moment, the 2 leaders of the ancient civilization, Lord God and Lord God, felt a huge impact. How was this person so strong? He isn't even an Empyrean. He is just at the Tao realm 36 transformations. We can easily create something at that level. Creating an Empyrean might be a little troublesome, but it is just a matter of time and resources. Lord God and Lord God retreated. If their marks were devoured, they would never be able to revive, and they might even lose all traces of their existence. "We can't leave." Gu Chench's voice spread out from the Book of Knowledge. "If you want to leave, you are too naive. Mobile users, please go to M. Read for a better reading experience." Chapter 867. Gu Chensha had now completely broken away from the normal cultivation system. His Dragonless Heart Sutra's formidable aspect was that the more knowledge he obtained, the more powerful it would be. Tianxi Shaoxi said. Now that he had obtained some knowledge from Lord Dan, his Dragonless Heart Sutra was rapidly expanding, and he began to understand some of the secrets of this battleship. Thus, he was able to move around the battleship with ease. "Lord God, leave your knowledge behind as well. I won't kill you, but obtaining your knowledge will be much easier." The Dragonless Heart Sutra seeped into many corners of the warship, and the Prime God and Prime Dan, who were just about to escape, were once again illuminated. Gu Chansha didn't kill them. He didn't even hurt them. He just wanted to learn their knowledge. Gu Chansha transformed his Dragonless Heart technique into a profound knowledge that permeated into the depths of the battleship. The battleship did not resist at all, instead absorbing Gu Chench's knowledge. This was because the battleship knew that Gu Chench's knowledge was incredibly useful to it. After obtaining it, the battleship would evolve once again. Gu Chensha, on the other hand, had other ideas, which was to infuse his knowledge into the battleship. While the battleship was learning, he could also obtain the knowledge of the battleship. Right now, Gu Chansha had already transformed into knowledge, and had basically comprehended some sort of undying path. Knowledge could not be destroyed, regardless of whether the world still existed or not. It would always be there. Knowledge is the concrete manifestation of principles. Without knowledge, principles cannot be manifested. If the great Tao is a person's soul, then knowledge is that person's body. I've finally touched upon the path of immortality. Gu Chensha was overjoyed. He had entered this warship left behind by the prehistoric civilization and obtained a great deal of knowledge and information. Through his deductions, his Dragonless Heart Sutra had once again advanced to a terrifying realm. Although it hadn't completely condensed into a physical form and was still considered an incomplete version, it wasn't too far from the Empyrean realm. If Gu Chansha could absorb all the knowledge here, then who knew what level his Dragonless Heart Sutra would advance to? Not to mention becoming an Empyrean, it would be enough for him to advance to the heavenly longevity realm. Now that he had seen sovereign Satan and sovereign God, he could feel the vastness of the ancient civilization's knowledge. A civilization's accumulation of billions of years was not something he could compare to. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The two leaders of the prehistoric civilization, Prime Dan and Prime God, flew over and were enveloped by Guchensh's Dragonless Heart Sutra. After all, they were not real people, but just two great brands. The power of their brands was almost at the divine origin realm. Unfortunately, they were still no match for the current Guchensha. One must know that right now, Guchensha had already obtained the Desolate Dragon Gate and the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. His strength had risen even further. Of course, Guchensha had yet to refine the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. After all, this talisman represented the heavenly Tao. It was harder to refine compared to the Desolate Dragon Gate. However, now that he had gradually come into contact with the various knowledge of the prehistoric civilization, his understanding of the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman and the heavenly Tao had deepened. Refining the talisman was no longer a problem. This talisman might even be integrated into Guchensh's Dragonless Heart Sutra. Suppress and capture. Lord Dan and Lord God were both pulled out. They were wrapped up in the Dragonless Heart Sutra and couldn't escape. Therefore, they called out again. Immediately, balls of light appeared. 10 more balls of light appeared. Each one pulsed with heaven-shaking power, and within that light were the 12 magisters of the prehistoric civilization. The Sovereign Lord, the Sovereign Spirit, the Sovereign Rest, the Sovereign Lord, the Sovereign Blaze, the Sovereign Lord, the Sovereign Lord, the Sovereign Lord, the Sovereign Universe, the Sovereign Lord. The 10 magisters and the Lord Devil joined forces, causing rumbling sounds of power to echo out. In the blink of an eye, an enormous spell formation appeared, in the middle of which was a sphere. That sphere was none other than the true form of the system of the one God. As soon as the 12 magisters appeared, the systems of the one God revealed their true form. In the blink of an eye, Gudusha's attacks were destroyed, and the dragonless mental dharma was forced into him. However, Guchensha wasn't the least bit surprised. In fact, a look of delight appeared on his face as he looked at the sphere, which was also made up of characters and information. It seemed corporeal, but at the same time formless. Unexpectedly, it was also the embodiment of knowledge. Wonderful, wonderful. We're thinking of the same thing. It seems like the highest realm of the prehistoric civilization and the wisdom of everyone is connected. We've all reached this step, but even so, it's still not enough. We can't subdue the heavenly Tao and make it serve us. We can't create a brand new world. Guchensha looked at the sphere that represented the system of the one God. He knew that if he consumed it, he would be able to acquire the legacy of the prehistoric civilization. Unfortunately, the system was far more powerful than the Lord of the Sun and Moon, and not even the Tao of Heaven could destroy it. Clearly, it was deathless. Guchensha wasn't convinced that he could fully assimilate the system. But now that he had more knowledge, he would be able to reach the celestial realm. Then he would be able to absorb the system. Honorable experts of this civilization, said a middle-aged man in a white robe, who held a scepter in his hand. Don't you think you're going a bit too far? He said. He was a middle-aged man in a white robe, who held a scepter in his hand, and was clad in golden scriptures. He had an aquiline nose, and his hair was so golden that it almost seemed as if the passage of time hadn't left a mark on him. He was the Sovereign Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, your civilization has declined, and you are a failure. You haven't come back to life yet. You're nothing more than branding marks. You don't have hearts of your own. Do you really want to be resurrected? You'll have to rely on me. Work with me, and I can guarantee that I can resurrect you. You'll return to your peak, and you'll get what you want. You're Guchensha, said a woman, her face expressionless. I know you, she said, hefting a jade scepter and jade scriptures. You've founded the Calming Immortal Department, and you've done a lot of things in the Central Divine Prefecture. But to us, that's nothing to be surprised about. We did far more things in the previous civilization than you could ever imagine. If you said you wanted to resurrect us, we wouldn't believe you. You're not strong enough to do it. If you were my father, Gu Taxian, you might have a chance. My father won't come here. He's suppressing the heavenly Tao. Do you really think that you become deathless? You'll be completely destroyed in this civilization. The previous civilization was actually the age of turmoil, and the Emperor of Heaven had yet to be born. But now, the Emperor of Heaven has appeared. You're just sacrifices to strengthen the heavenly Tao's authority. The heavenly Tao is just fattening you up before killing you, and then letting the Emperor of Heaven do it. If you can't even understand this, then I'm truly disappointed. Gu Chensha said, if it weren't for the imperial court suppressing the heavenly Tao, causing it to lose its former power and greatly weaken its authority, you would have long since died. You're indeed not strong enough. The woman's name was Jumi, and she looked at Gu Chensha for a long moment. But you have the knowledge we need. Since you're here, we won't hold back. We'll take you and add you to our systems. That's right, Jumi said. I can sense that his deathless aura is different from ours. He's walking a different path, avoiding the supervision of the heavenly Tao and fate. It's very miraculous. He'll be a good test subject. Capture him and study him. We'll be able to get some good data. Capture him then. The 12 magisters nodded, then sent their light into the sphere of the one God system. Whiz! The sphere spun, trembled, and an invisible power spread out to cover Gu Chensha. It surpassed the prime of heaven, and Gu Chensha had never felt anything like it. It was almost as if this sphere were the true heavens and the true Tao. Not bad. Not bad at all. This is the system that once tried to replace the heavenly Tao. Although it didn't succeed, it's the crystallization of the wisdom of an entire civilization. You can't underestimate it. If you want to use me as a test subject, then I'll gladly let you consume me. Gu Chensha once again transformed into knowledge, and without any resistance, he began the process of fusing with the system of the one God. He transformed into the text of the dragonless mental Dharma, which flew into the sphere of the one God system. As the system of the one God consumed him, the text of the dragonless mental Dharma appeared, and it continued to expand. Jumi said, clearly aware of what Gu Chensha was thinking. This guy's guts. I can't believe he's letting the system of the one God absorb him. Don't tell me he's trying to take over our systems. He does not have that kind of power. There's a saying in this civilization that goes, fortune comes only with danger. Or, you can't catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's lair. I'm pretty sure he wants to infiltrate the systems of the one God and then devour them. But how could he possibly know that our civilization has built up so much power? Our systems of the one God have chosen representatives in this civilization and have access to the most fundamental aspects of the immortal Tao civilization. Let's see if we assimilate him or if he devours the systems of the one God. The 12 leaders activated their powers at the same time to observe everything that was happening inside the sphere. By this point, Gu Chensha had been sucked into the system of the one God. Inside, he couldn't sense anything. It wasn't a world, but rather a power of manipulation. In some ways, the system of the one God was the closest thing to the Tao of Heaven. It was the crystallization of the wisdom of the ancient civilization, and the only reason Gu Chensha didn't fight back was because it was a huge risk. He wanted to obtain the knowledge contained within the system. If he did not succeed, he would truly be refined by the system and become a tonic. Chapter 868. 1 second remember 09 to provide you with exciting reading. Chapter 865. All Celestials. Back in the system, Gu Chensha had become a manifestation of knowledge. He had no physical form, but rather a will of propagation, creation, and expansion. 09 Little Saynet. 09 the system itself was a substitute for the Tao of Heaven, and as soon as Yang Qi entered it, he could sense how greedy it was, as if it viewed him as a juicy piece of meat. Of course, to the systems of the one God, there was nothing that could possibly be more beneficial than devouring him. Only by devouring him would the systems of the one God be able to defeat the Emperor of Heaven and perhaps even transcend and become deathless, and survive the transformations of the Tao of Heaven. Amidst his confusion, Gu Chansha suddenly felt a will directly piercing into his soul. Within his dragonless mental cultivation technique, there was suddenly an additional amount of knowledge and principles. These knowledge and principles were things that he could not completely fuse together, as they were things that he could not understand. These things were like pollutants that seeped into his dragonless mental cultivation technique, causing it to be unable to circulate freely and even attempting to control him. The systems of the One God were devouring him. First, it was using its own will to infiltrate his will, like a viper injecting venom into its prey. First, the prey would be paralyzed, and then it would slowly feast on them. This knowledge is really strange. I can't assimilate it, and I can't understand it. Gu Qinsha was a bit shocked, but he had long since been prepared for this. He knew that things wouldn't go smoothly for the systems of the One God, and that it would be completely unreasonable for him to assimilate them so easily. It was a game and a tempering. Without that tempering, how could he possibly become a celestial? Digest. Gu Chansha revolved the Dragonless Heart Sutra, digesting and comprehending the knowledge and principles transmitted to him by the system, making them a part of him. The game between the two sides was as simple as that, but also incomparably complex. At their level, the battle was no longer a battle of fists and feet, a battle that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. Instead, it was a battle that seemed calm, but not even the celestial, heaven longevity, and heaven primal realms could understand. Now that Gu Chansha had gained enlightenment of the dragonless mental magic, he had become a manifestation of knowledge. No attack could do anything to him. Theoretically speaking, Gu Chansha was the embodiment of the immortal Tao civilization and possessed all of its knowledge. That was especially true of his mastery of the great massacre god magic, a secret magic created by Grand Emperor Heaven Talisman, which contained things that the systems of the One God couldn't. Infiltrate. In the blink of an eye, Gu Chansha could sense the power of the systems of the One God increasing. His dragonless mental sutra had doubled in size and was now beyond Gu Chansha's control. In other words, the systems of the One God had control over half of Gu Chansha's dragonless mental sutra. Theoretically speaking, Gu Chansha's true self was already half under the control of the systems of the One God. In fact, he was starting to realize that he wasn't very agile and that he was being controlled by someone else. Of course, that was exactly what he needed. Order of Heaven's Sacrifice. Come forth. Rumble. A paper talisman appeared in Gu Chansha's dragonless mental magic, glittering with azure light. It was none other than the Order of Heaven's Sacrifice, which Gu Chansha immediately sent into the systems of the One God. All of a sudden, the systems of the One God felt the power of the Order of Heaven's Sacrifice and began fighting back. Immense will surged into the decree, causing it to shine with dazzling light. Crack! Unexpectedly, the decree was ripped to shreds. The talisman then transformed into two characters. One of them read, "Receive the mandate of heaven," and the other read, "Man can conquer heaven." The two portions of the Order of Heaven's Sacrifice continued to fuse into the systems of the One God. Excellent. The systems of the One God are incredible. I can't believe they tore the Order of Heaven's Sacrifice apart. If I didn't borrow your power, how could I possibly assimilate them? Gu Chansha was delighted. Son of Heaven ordains gods. Grand Massacre God magic. Combine. Rumble. The dragonless mental magic sent out two different auras. One was ordaining gods. One was slaughtering gods. One was mending the heavens. One was overturning the heavens. Yin and Yang rotated, and the cosmos rotated. In an instant, the two parts of the Heaven's Sacrificial Talisman were absorbed into the Dragonless Heart Sutra. The words, "Obey the heavens," and "Man conquers heaven." Whoosh! Gu Chansha's dragonless mental magic suddenly turned crimson like fire, as if it were molten gold. As he wriggled, he began to fight back, devouring the knowledge the system of the One God had imbued him with. As a result, Gu Dusha's ability to understand and calculate things improved, and he quickly digested the information from the system of the One God. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation base skyrocketed. As he fought with the systems of the one God, it was only natural that he would be able to acquire its knowledge. As a result, he was able to understand and gain enlightenment of the prehistoric technological civilization. Soon, he was able to see a path that was completely different from the path of immortals. He also used the power of the systems of the one God to assimilate the order of heaven sacrifice, ensuring that it was completely free of impurities. At the core of the order of heaven sacrifice were 4 characters, receive the mandate of heaven. Those 4 characters represented authority and authority, something that had been given to many ancient emperors. However, they were also shackles of fate. Of course, the words man can conquer heaven shattered those shackles and represented different philosophies. And now that Gu Chansha had fused those 2 philosophies together, he was fighting back against the systems. Gu Chansha's celestial aura was growing stronger. Waves of heavenly venerable aura circulated within his dragonless heart sutra, causing the scarlet flames to burn continuously. The 12 magisters were the Lord God, Lord Dawn, Lord Sovereign, Lord Spirit, Lord Rest, Lord Blaze, Lord Me, Lord Sa, Lord Pu, Lord Na, Lord Ian, and Lord Sea. Soon they saw something completely unimaginable. Moments ago, the ancient dust sand had been suppressed by the system of the one God and was on the verge of being assimilated. But then, the ancient dust sand suddenly transformed into a tiny tongue of flame, burning with crimson energy. Thankfully, it wasn't a threat to the system at all, but this was also a bad sign. It meant that the systems couldn't refine Gu Chansha, and the tongue of flame was still growing, absorbing power from the systems. It was like a virus that was expanding. My dragonless mental magic has improved greatly. Gu Chansha had gained a large amount of knowledge about the prehistoric civilization. At the same time, in the central divine region within the dragonless gourd, Lu Baiwe, Wenhong, Gu Huasha, Zhuge, Martial Saint, Longevity God, and the other higher-ups were all cultivating. While they were managing the world, they were also deepening their own cultivation bases. In the world, the country luck and sacrifices were getting thicker and thicker, especially those 360 common people generals. All of them were experts at the Tao Realm 36 transformation. They were all true God Realm experts and could turn their own luck into strength. Each general was loved and respected by numerous people. They became the embodiment of justice, the God of justice. Although they weren't celestial sovereigns, with the position of true God that Gu Chansha had created for them, they could fight against celestial sovereigns. It was because of this that no one could invade them in the central divine region. All right, Lu Baiwe was in the middle of cultivating bitterly, when suddenly a stream of will pierced through her. She could sense Gu Chansha's dragonless heart sutra, and in her heart, a spark of fire exploded. Countless scriptures replaced her original body, and she transformed into a scripture. Kacha, a supreme lock on her body, was completely undone. The aura of a celestial sovereign was born in her body. At that moment, she had actually reached celestial sovereign. Chansha is really amazing. He is actually fighting with the highest crystallization of intelligence of the prehistoric civilization, the God system, and he even obtained its knowledge. Lu Baiwe instantly understood what she had obtained. It was Gu Chansha's fusion of prehistoric technology and celestial Tao civilization's cultivation. It was a supreme technique to subdue the heavens, the dragonless technique. With this knowledge, she could break through to celestial sovereign realm. Dragonless Gourd, rebuild the universe. Common people's commander, reverse fate and break through. As soon as Lu Baiwe became a heavenly venerate, an inexplicable power awakened in her body. Nobody knew if it was the source of the Queen of Sky. Although she was still a heavenly venerate, the aura she exuded seemed to have completely surpassed the sky primordial realm. She even seemed to have surpassed the Sun Moon Lord, Gu Tiansha. Is it really the Queen of Heaven? Only the Queen of Heaven would have such an aura. Zhuge stared at Lu Baiwe in shock. The moment Lu Baiwei became a celestial sovereign, the dragonless gourd's aura was earth-shattering. Seeing this aura, Zhuge knew that Lu Baiwei could kill a celestial longevity realm powerhouse with a snap of her fingers. After Lu Baiwei broke through, she poured all the power in her body into the dragonless gourd. Suddenly, the sacrificial power within the dragonless gourd was extracted and turned into 360 balls of light. These balls of light suddenly flew out and fused with the 360 Common People's commanders who were stationed all over the Divine Continent. Common People's commander, make a celestial sovereign. Everyone, advance. Your current combat power is actually equivalent to a celestial sovereign, but you are definitely not a true celestial sovereign. Now that I have obtained the prehistoric technology to create a celestial sovereign, you can all advance to celestial sovereign. From now on, the Divine Continent's Yonko will truly have the capital to dominate the myriad realms. Lu Baiwei's voice spread out from the dragonless gourd. Then, this voice began to spread among the people. There were now news organizations constantly spreading news about the movements and changes of the upper echelons of the imperial court. The entire imperial court was transparent, and this transparency led to the people's extreme trust in the imperial court. In the eyes of many people, the imperial court was no longer the high and unfathomable authority it used to be. Instead, it was like a family that could solve their problems. The closeness between the ordinary people and the imperial court was getting higher and higher. Mobile users, please browse M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 869. What? General Common People is going to become a Sky Venerable? In Xin Province, numerous warriors, adventurers, businessmen, nobles, scholars, and martial artists all looked at the message that was sent out by the bracer in their hands. Now, almost everyone in the world had a communication device. This communication device was made in the form of a wrist guard. When worn on the wrist, it would emit a ball of light. Within the light, there were all sorts of images, all sorts of information, and even the contact information of friends. Through this communicator, everyone could get news from the court, contact friends, observe the weather, buy and sell items, pay taxes, complete missions, etc. This communicator wasn't developed by the Celestial Designer Department, but by Calming Xian Department. Calming Xian Department had slowly swallowed up the Celestial Designer Department, and the two merged into one. Zhuge was in charge of this matter, and everyone in the world was benefiting from it. Just as the war between the humans and the demons was in full swing, everyone's communication wristbands received news. It was news released by the Imperial Court's Celestial Pacification Department. It said that the general was about to ascend to the Celestial Venerable Realm, and that all the common people should not panic if they saw the phenomenon. This was a really exciting matter. An expert who cultivated to Tao Realm 22 transformations, astronomical phenomenon, just came out of the demon region. He tapped on his bracer and sent out a message to sell the items he had obtained from the demon region. He was so shocked that he couldn't reply to his friend's message. Sky Venerable. That is a Sky Venerable. How is that possible for general common people to all reach Sky Venerable Realm? Going from Tao Realm 36 transformations to Sky Venerable Realm isn't a simple matter. I have cultivated to astronomical phenomenon of Tao Realm 22 transformations, but I am unable to comprehend the 23 transformations past reflection. I'm stuck at this stage. So. At the same time, a large group of people gathered around this expert. Some had cultivated to the 18 transformations of the Great Tao. Some had cultivated to the 19 transformations of the Big Tao. Some had cultivated to the 19 transformations of the Big Tao. Some had cultivated to the 20 transformations of the impermanence of gathering and dispersing, and the 21 transformations of the 5 elements. Brother Yang, is the news from Calming Xian Department real or fake? General Common People has actually all become Sky Venerables? What kind of state is that? A cultivator with an 18 transformation Grand Tao Golden Core asked in shock. An Empyrean is a loophole in the heavenly Tao. a variable existence. Only by surpassing the natural talent of an innate saint can one be promoted to an Empyrean. From ancient times until now, an Empyrean can become the teacher of an ancient son of heaven. Even an ancient son of heaven would sometimes have to seek the guidance of an Empyrean if he had the heavenly sacrifice decree. This Tao Realm 22 transformation expert was called Yang Wangxi. He had a fortuitous encounter and reached this realm. He contacted many experts and formed a team. Among the people, there are many groups like this. Only by joining together would they be able to venture into the demon domain, kill demons, and obtain wealth. Over time, they would become factions. I've vaguely heard rumors these days that our imperial court is going against the heavenly Tao, and a great calamity will descend. The divine continent will become the heavenly court, and the Emperor Heaven will come out to sweep away evil and establish order in the myriad worlds. I don't know if it's true or false, but in any case, we have to be careful, an expert said. I think that these rumors are just to stir up chaos in the world. Our lives are already really good. Since ancient times, when has the world been so prosperous? Yang Wangxi said, 20 years ago, I was just a normal person, so how could I have such a good life? All of this is due to the imperial court. Everyone knows about the past. Each time the demon calamity, people would die and humans would be swallowed by the demon race. Now, we are suppressing the demon race and treating them as prey. All of this is due to the imperial court. The heavenly Tao gave birth to humans, but it was afraid that humans would be hard to control, so it sent many tribulations to control the growth of humans. We aren't willing to be test subjects, so naturally, we have to protect the imperial court and Comingxian department. This is what the imperial court has been spreading. Does Brother Yang actually believe it? An expert frowned. We've all cultivated to this realm, so we aren't blind. We all have our own thoughts. Yang Wangxi said, when the imperial court compiled the heavenly talisman canon, it recorded countless histories and facts. We calculated and analyzed the truth ourselves, so we naturally wouldn't be deceived by others. At this point, I can already see that the various news that Comingxian department and the imperial court released, as well as the various knowledge and cultivation methods that they imparted, are all real. When you cultivate, can't you feel it? Don't be deceived by some false information from the outside. Otherwise, you will regret in the future. Big Brother Yang is right. A few experts nodded. We've also started to cultivate the human dragon fist. This fist is really broad and profound, containing the growth of all living things, the mysteries of creation, and the might of the human heart that surpasses the heavens. As long as we continue to cultivate according to the prescribed order, we will definitely be able to become celestial venerables like the common people's Grand Marshal. I heard that when one ascends to celestial venerables, there will be all sorts of strange phenomena. The heavenly Tao will send down a huge punishment. Another expert came up. Many ancient experts died in this punishment. The moment they became celestial venerables, they immediately collapsed. I wonder if the common people's Grand Marshal will encounter such a situation during this ascension. You have to know that this isn't just one person ascending, but 360 people ascending at the same time. Look, the phenomenon is coming. As the crowd discussed, they looked up and saw 360 huge beams of light suddenly rising from the divine land and even the four wildernesses. These beams of light showed a might that pierced through the heavens and the earth. Within the light, the figure of the common people's Grand Marshal appeared. Rumble. The heavens and earth shook violently. Countless thunderbolts descended from the sky. Lightning fell wildly, and space was torn apart. The God-destroying light descended from ancient times and the future at the same time to the present, wanting to destroy the common people's Grand Marshal. However, the common people's Grand Marshal was unmoved in the face of these tribulations. Instead, many texts appeared on their bodies. These texts swept in all directions, and wherever they reached, the tribulations would be absorbed by the texts. These texts were beautiful, and the concepts contained within were the deepest mysteries. Even the smartest of sages wouldn't be able to understand them. Originally, if these tribulations descended, the divine land would definitely be leveled, and all living beings and humans would die. However, they were all absorbed by the text that spread out from the common people's grand marshal's body. Instead, they turned into streaks of spiritual light that descended. When Yang Wangshi saw the spiritual light that descended, he used the human dragon fist. Instantly, a large amount of spiritual light was absorbed into his body. Instantly, the power in his body was gathered together, and a crucial change occurred. These changes caused his soul to be totally enlightened, and he started to break through realms. He actually broke through from the 22nd transformation to the 23rd transformation, past reflection, and then to the 24th transformation, future glimpse. In the end, he actually reached the 25th transformation, undying body. He broke through 3 realms at once, which was something that even he found unbelievable. Looking at Yang Wangshi's changes, many experts were delighted. They started to use the moving dragon fist to absorb the spiritual light that fell from the sky. But none of them were as effective as Yang Wangshi. Some of them couldn't even absorb the spiritual light. What is going on? A few experts had a weird expression on their faces. I know, in the depths of one's heart, the more one agrees with the calming celestial department's principles, the more benefits one will get. If one doesn't agree, then one won't get any benefits at all. Yang Wangshi hollered and absorbed the spiritual light once more. This is the spiritual light from heaven venerables, a bit of spirituality from the battle with the Tao. A huge amount of spiritual light fused into his body, causing him to break through once more. He went from the 25th transformation, undying body, to the 26th transformation, 10,000 techniques returned to one, and then to the 27th transformation, seamless 2 worlds. Only then did he stop. This made everyone really envious, especially those who agreed with the calming celestial department's policies on the surface. But in the depths of their hearts, they didn't agree. They were reflecting on whether or not they were wrong. How long? Heaven and earth returned to normal. All the common people's generals became celestial venerables. Their auras descended, and instantly, everyone felt a huge sense of security. Right? It was a sense of security and not a restriction. Generally speaking, when the imperial court was too powerful, the common people would feel like they were suffocating. But now, the common people's generals have been handling government affairs for many years and had never made any mistakes. They had long since won him a huge reputation, and even the most demanding of the common people and the great clans couldn't help but admire the common people's generals for their lack of partiality or selfishness. Because of how strong the common people's generals was, no one felt uneasy, only a sense of security. The feeling of security was also fused into the destiny of the nation, which was red and then solid, which then flowed into the dragonless gourd. The dragonless gourd expanded, and vast amounts of deathless substance were born. At the same time, a mysterious power pierced through the barriers of space-time into the ruins of the ancient civilization and into the glowing sphere of the one God system. Instantly, Gu Chench's power increased. National destiny, blessing. The hearts of all men, serve me. Gu Chensha laughed heartily. If even the Tao of heaven fears the hearts of men, there's no need to even mention you. Now I'm going to show you what it's like to be united in the hearts of all living beings. Even as the words left his mouth, Gu Chench's lantern form transformed into an enormous fireball. Flames began to burn within the system, causing the interior of the glowing sphere to turn bright red, making it look like a blazing sun. Not good. The 12 magisters all sensed danger. Hey! Chapter 870. 1 second remember 09, providing you with exciting reading. Chapter 867. Blocking disaster. Gu Chensha imparted the Dragonless Heart Sutra that he had obtained to Liu Baiwei, causing Liu Baiwei to finally awaken the mysterious power in his body. He then ascended to the Celestial Lord realm and was able to take charge of an area by himself, transforming the 360 great generals of the common people into celestial lords. Such a huge change caused the destiny of the Yonko to be so strong that it was almost unparalleled. It had to be known that in the past dynasties, the appearance of an Empyrean, even a sage or a god-level powerhouse, was a great blessing. They could extend the lifespan of the imperial court and even bring about a resurgence of the imperial court. There were many such examples in history. When a dynasty reached its end, it would be filled with flames of war, filled with corruption, and the people would be in a frenzy. But at this time, a god-level powerhouse or a saint-level powerhouse would appear in the court and turn the tide, reforming the court and stabilizing the world, extending the dynasty's lifespan for hundreds of years. That was the case for god-level and saints, let alone sky lords. Sky lords were not included. Now the entire Yonko had 365 more sky lords, let alone the people of their own dynasty. Even their enemies would feel their scalps go numb, especially these sky lords. They were not puppets of the prehistoric civilization, but living people with sacrificial powers. The general was not a puppet, but a living person. Their sacrificial power was equivalent to a real sky lord's sacrificial power. In fact, it was much stronger than normal sky lords. As such, the world was truly suppressed by this power. Many restless people did not dare to do anything in the depths of their hearts. Especially now that the people were enlightened, the Department of Calming Immortals spread many cultivation secrets and information all over the world. Even the common people knew the cultivation realms, as well as the corresponding power and abilities of each realm. Even children could recite the various states of the 36 Tao realm transformations. 09, small, say net. 09. Then, above the 36 transformations, the Sky Lord, Sky Longevity, Sky Origin, Sky Realm, Sky Tao, and the Department of Calming Immortals began to spread the knowledge of the world without reservation. They wanted the people of the world to completely grasp the truth. Only then would they be able to raise their overall quality and cause the power of sacrificial power to become stronger. The Tranquil Immortal Department didn't use any sort of policy to fool the people. At this stage of the game, fooling the people was nothing more than seeking death. Because the common people of the world, even children, knew that after cultivating to an extremely high realm, they could obtain all sorts of abilities. Thus, they were deeply aware of the might of an Empyrean. Otherwise, if the common people didn't know what a celestial venerate was, there would be no sense of reverence or security. Great! Zhuge looked at the sharp changes in the fate of the country. In addition to the 360 common people generals, all turning into celestial venerables, he was instantly overjoyed. This way, even if the Emperor of Heaven appears, we can still fight. As for who will win and who will lose, we still have to fight to know. I've already become an Empyrean and activated the mysterious power within my body. Lu Baiwei carefully felt the changes in her body. Whether or not this power is the Queen of Heaven's essence remains to be seen. I still can't control the mysterious power in my body. Your battle prowess far exceeds that of a heavenly longevity realm expert. Even a divine origin realm expert wouldn't be a match for you. When Hong looked at her aura, if that's the case, your identity must be extraordinary. Let's not talk about that. Chen Sha is currently in the depths of primal chaos, playing a game with the one God system and the miracles left behind by the prehistoric civilization. The stronger the fate of our country, the more benefits he will obtain, and perhaps even subjugate the one God system. Lu Baiwei said, "The Dragonless Heart Sutra he passed on contains the crystallization of the wisdom of the prehistoric civilization. Compared to what the Immortal Master and the Celestial Designer Department have grasped, it's thousands of times more profound and profound. What they have grasped is just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't count for much. Right now, we should immediately carry out a reform, abolish the Celestial Designer Department, and abolish the Tranquil Immortal Department. The two of them will merge into a brand new organization called the Dragonless Pavilion. This is the Imperial Court's true cabinet, the Eternal Dynasty's cabinet. The Dragonless Pavilion handles all the political affairs. This way, It is perfectly justifiable. At the same time, we will abolish the crown prince, capture Gu Tanjian, and destroy those clans with ulterior motives. We will thoroughly purge the world and complete our final reform. Now that Liu Baiyue had become a heavenly sovereign, she seemed to have something to rely on. She began to carry out a series of deep reforms, especially the abolition of the crown prince. This wasn't something ordinary people could do. After all, Crown Prince Gu Xiansha was appointed by the heavenly talisman sovereign. Even Gu Chansha couldn't abolish him. But now, Liu Baiyue actually wanted to abolish him. Of course, Liu Baiyue had the qualifications to do so. She had the regal presence medallion, which was equivalent to the arrival of the heavenly talisman sovereign himself. Crown Prince Gu Xiansha has already colluded with the Sun Moon, Lord Gu Tiansha. There are indeed some small movements among the people, but it's enough for us to suppress. There's no point in abolishing him directly. Zhuge Ye frowned. Actually, he had long been dissatisfied with Crown Prince Gu Xiansha. This kid couldn't get along with the imperial court. He didn't know what Gu Xiansha was thinking deep down in his heart. In fact, as long as Gu Xiansha behaved himself and didn't go against the Communist Celestial Department, he could be given a lot of benefits without affecting his position. But this kid was appointed by the heavenly talisman sovereign after all. Until now, Zhuge Ye still didn't understand why the heavenly talisman sovereign would appoint Gu Xiansha as the crown prince. Gu Xiansha didn't show anything special. As for appointing Wu Dangkong as a concubine, it showed that the heavenly talisman sovereign had already seen through everything. From this, it could be seen that Gu Xiansha also had a miraculous existence, even more miraculous than concubine Wu Dangkong. Gu Xiansha has some secrets, but they aren't the secrets of the future heavenly court. His identity is worth studying. A smile appeared on Liu Baiyue's face. If I abolish his crown prince status, I can make him rebel. He can say that we are messing around and add fuel to the fire. With him at the center, we can cause chaos in the world. This way, his secrets will be exposed. This can be done. Even if we don't abolish the crown prince, Gu Xiansha will rebel sooner or later under the control of the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Xiansha. It's better to force them to act earlier. Wen Hong agreed. In that case, let's get rid of these cancerous tumors. Zhuge Ye nodded. The 36th year of the heavenly talisman sovereign will be here in a few days. Liu Baiyue said, at that time, the world will be in a brand new state. We will take this opportunity to cultivate all the generals into celestial venerables, reform the Communist Celestial Department, establish a dragonless cabinet, abolish the crown prince, and create a brand new state. This will be a true revolution in preparation for the great calamity. Yes, all the higher-ups of the Communist Celestial Department moved again. The world had turned over an old page and ushered in a new chapter. The destiny of the nation had risen to a new level. In the primal chaos, in the ruins of the prehistoric civilization, in the huge battleship, in the system of the one god, Gu Chansha was using the destiny of the nation to launch a counterattack against the system of the one god. His cultivation base was growing stronger and stronger. First, he used the power of the system of the one god to assimilate the heaven sacrificial talisman, then fuse it into the dragonless mental dharma. That was how he mastered the cultivation method of the one heart of all living beings. The heaven sacrificial talisman contained the son of the one god ordainment magic, and Gu Chansha had only acquired the first two stances of it. Sun and moon shine together, live as long as heaven and earth. However, he hadn't mastered the final stance. From ancient times until now, no crown prince had ever been able to cultivate the final stance. Therefore, the third stance of the sun of the one heart of all living beings had never appeared in the world. But Gu Chansha had assimilated the heaven sacrificial talisman, and thus acquired the complete version of the sun of the one heart of all living beings. Because of that, Gu Chansha was the first person to acquire the third stance of the sun of the one heart of all living beings. Of course, It was only a reference for him. As the civilization of the Tao of Immortals grew more complete, he fused it into his dragonless mental dharma and gained even more benefits. The destiny of the nation surged in Gu Chencha's direction, and he began to take control of the situation. The knowledge of the system of the one God flowed into him, and as a result, his dragonless mental dharma grew even more powerful. The system of the one God seemed to be in a bit of a predicament and began to suppress him. However, every time the system tried to suppress him, Gu Chansha gained more knowledge, and thus his cultivation base grew even stronger. After a while, the system's suppression was no longer a problem for him. The Empyrean aura on his body became thicker and thicker. Nearly 99% of his world energy had been transformed into the aura of an Empyrean. Only a tiny bit in the depths of his core hadn't become an Empyrean. I'm pretty much done with the knowledge I acquired from the ancient civilization. I've already acquired the 8th and 9th tiers. I should be able to break through to the celestial realm. Gu Chencha's heart began to pound. Unfortunately, breaking through to the celestial realm will be too powerful. The Tao of Heaven will instinctively sense the threat and will gather all of its power to try to kill me. That's exactly what I need. I'll use the power of the one God to take the blame for me, and then use the Tao of Heaven to deal a heavy blow to the system of the one God. Then I'll be able to take advantage of the situation and take control of the system of the one God. Once I take the system of the one God, I'll be able to compete with the Emperor of Heaven. I'll make the Tao of Heaven truly fear me. Crack! Gu Chansha began to break through to the celestial realm, using the power of the system of the one God to break through. Once he became a celestial, tribulation would descend. When that happened, he wouldn't be the one to bear the brunt of it, but rather the system of the one God. It was something he had long since planned out. Considering the level of his cultivation base, he could easily slaughter heaven origin experts. Therefore, once he became a celestial, he would be able to truly contend with the will of the heavenly world. Mobile users, please visit M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 871. 1 second remember 09 to provide you with exciting reading. Chapter 868. Strange encounters. If Gu Chansha wanted to become a celestial, he would have to use the one God system. 09 small, net. 09 the 12 magisters, the overgod, Prime Dan, and the others could all sense the destructive aura and knew that it was the wrath of the Tao of Heaven. The Tao of Heaven felt threatened and was willing to throw caution to the wind in order to destroy Gu Chansha. He wanted to destroy everything to prevent Gu Chansha from causing irreparable harm. What do? This kid is so treacherous. Prime Dan knew that this was a critical moment of life and death, and that he had to make a decision. Activate. Give up. After a moment of discussion, the 12 magisters unleashed a secret magic that caused the battleship to shrink and writhe. The primordial chaos elemental energy in the area collapsed, and countless minor kiliocosms, medium kiliocosms, and even greater kiliocosms began to erupt with primordial chaos. That's right. In the past, it would take thousands of years for a cultivator to create a kiliocosm. For example, a clan of sages would need 3,000 or 5,000 years to create a kiliocosm. As for a medium kiliocosm, it would require a celestial to establish a powerful organization, gather sacrifices, and purify the hearts of the people. A kiliocosm was something that no living being could create. It could only be created through the good fortune of the universe. The spaceship shuddered, causing primal chaos to explode. Kiliocosms fell like rain, medium kiliocosms were like clouds, and large kiliocosms were like the tide. Then, they were sent into the chaotic flows of space-time. It was impossible to say how many worlds had appeared and how many living beings had been born. From this, it was possible to see how incredible the spaceship was. In its heyday, it would have surpassed the heavenly worlds. The spaceship began to shrink, and the one God system's power increased. However, instead of refining Gu Chansha, the one god system spat Gu Chansha out. Whiz. The prehistoric civilization ruins, spaceships, and battleships that had shrunk to the point that they were almost invisible suddenly disappeared, leaving Gu Dusha behind. 09 Then, all the wrath of the heavenly Tao once again gathered on Gu Chansha. He actually escaped? When Gu Chansha saw the one god system spit him out, he was not surprised that the warship of the prehistoric civilization had shrunk and fled. This was part of the plan. The one god system was very powerful. If he had not refined the primeval dragon gate, the heavenly sacrifice talisman, and occupied the destiny of the divine central continent, gathering all his power, the one god system might have really devoured and refined him. The systems of the one god weren't even 1/10,000th as powerful as they had been in the past. Back in the day, not even Gu Chansha would have been able to stand up to them. However, it was impossible for the god system to return to the past. All of the previous worlds belonged to the god system. Right now, the system of the one god and the prehistoric civilization were hiding in primal chaos, struggling at death's door. If the system of the one god wanted to return to its peak, it would have to unify all the worlds and gather faith. Only then would it be able to return to the glory of the prehistoric civilization. But that was clearly impossible. But the one god system and the prehistoric civilization's warship fled. They used up a lot of their savings and their power dropped. They'll definitely go looking for a host. I wonder who will get this system. Gu Chansha stood in the primal chaos, watching the endless tribulations of the heavenly Tao descend upon him and drown him. But he seemed to be taking a stroll in his own backyard, and a diagram of creation, birth, and destruction appeared above his head. All of the tribulations of the heavenly Tao were sucked into the diagram of creation, birth, and destruction, becoming food. The tribulation of the Tao of heaven is itself a type of experience and knowledge. My dragonless mental dharma absorbs that experience and knowledge from the systems of the one God, creating a crucible that can combine the quintessence of two civilizations and give birth to a new civilization. Gu Chansha's body disintegrated, as if he could not withstand this power. But after disintegrating, he gathered back together, as if he had been remolded, and his body was even stronger. The heavenly Tao shattered him over and over again, and then reformed him over and over again. Gu Chansha didn't know how much time had passed, but then, with a cracking sound, the final core of his body shattered and transformed into the aura of a celestial. As of this moment, he had completely and utterly become a celestial. In the moment that he became a celestial, all of primal chaos trembled violently, which spread out into the chaotic flows of space-time, and then into the infinite worlds. All of the worlds, all of space-time, all of it seemed to seethe. Gu Chansha knew that when he became a celestial, the 36th year of the heavenly talisman would come to an end. It was a coincidence, but it was also inevitable. The fluctuations of the infinite worlds just now were the fluctuations of the 36th year of the heavenly talisman. The tribulation had begun. The universe was about to experience a new transformation. Was it because he had become a celestial that triggered the tribulation, or because his ascension had coincided with the tribulation? None of that mattered. What mattered was that heaven and earth were about to experience a new transformation. The Emperor of Heaven was about to come out, and the true tribulation and battle was about to begin. Inside the dragonless gourd, Lu Baiwei and the other experts from the Celestial Steadiness Department were gathered together, observing the changes in the divine prefecture. All of them were very sensitive and could sense that heaven and earth were shaking and that all sorts of images from the future could be seen. Heaven and earth were different than before, and yet they couldn't say exactly what was different. The 36th year of the heavenly talisman has come to an end, Yang Qi said. 36 years ago, His Majesty announced the establishment of the Yonko dynasty. I have to say, this is simply too much of a coincidence. Lu Baiwei said, The tribulation has just begun, and Chunsha has become a celestial. That's another coincidence. Unfortunately, the one God system has fled and is now in the divine prefecture. It's impossible to say who it's latched onto. We can only deal with the myriad changes by remaining unchanged, Wen Hong said. The Dragonless Cabinet has been established, and the Celestial Steadiness Department and the Celestial Designer Institute are things of the past. The Crown Prince has announced that they have been abolished. Henceforth, the Imperial Court is ushering in a new era. We have 99% of the crystallization of the prehistoric civilization, Zhuge said. Only the secret of the one God system remains. If we could get it all, we would reach a terrifying level of power. All of a sudden, someone appeared in the Dragonless Gourd, which was none other than Gu Qinsha. Now that the one God system has fled, we need to capture it and refine it. At that moment, Gu Qinsha, who had ascended to become a celestial venerate, had returned. The aura on his body was completely different from before. He looked very ordinary, but upon closer inspection, he seemed to have no physical form. He was just a representative of one civilization after another. He was the embodiment of many civilizations and the final form of knowledge. At this time, his state and realm had surpassed all cultivators in history, to say nothing of his cultivation. In the future, the only person in the heavenly court who could match up to him would be the Emperor of Heaven. Transmission, host, deposit. The shrunken worship of the prehistoric civilization and the one God system had completely concealed their auras and were now the true essence of civilization. Buzz had disappeared into the four wilds of heaven and the divine land, and no one knew who it was in. I can't accept this. Why is my position as the Crown Prince gone? In the Crown Prince's palace in the barbarian land, Crown Prince Gu Qinsha was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He had thought that his position as the Crown Prince had been conferred by Heavenly Talisman Emperor, so even if he had lost power, his position was still there. However, just 3 days ago, Liu Baiwei suddenly announced to the world in the name of His Majesty's presence that the Crown Prince had conspired against the law, harmed the country, and blasphemed against the common people. The Crown Prince's title was revoked, and he was imprisoned in the Imperial Palace. The moment the announcement was made to the world, the Dragonless Gourd released a power that completely sealed the Crown Prince in the palace. Crown Prince Gu Qinsha had hooked up with the Master of Sun and Moon Gu Tiansha, and with his support he had started to contact people, preparing to build another Crown Prince faction within the Imperial Court to compete with the Calming Deities Department. However, this time, Liu Baiwei had announced to the world that he had been imprisoned, and the world had not reacted at all. Even a Master of Sun and Moon Gu Tiansha had not come to save him. He had been abolished just like that, and he had lost the support of the people in the world. He no longer had the ability to stir up trouble. His heart was burning with anger, and he wanted to burn everything and hate everything, but it was useless. This was because his strength was too weak. He wasn't even a match for a common people marshal. Thinking about it, the 360 common people marshals of the Tranquil Immortal Department had all advanced to the Empyrean realm, and they even had their own true god positions. This power made Crown Prince Gu Qinsha feel despair. I can't accept this. Gu Qinsha shouted again. I have been away from the Imperial Court since I was a child, because I wanted to cultivate a secret method and gather forces. Then I would return to the Imperial Court and seize power. After I came back, I was made the Crown Prince, and I thought I could control the Imperial Court. But why? I can't accept this. I want to rule the world and be the master of the world. I want to kill. Gu Qinsha, Liu Baiwei, how dare you abolish me? Gu Tiansha, you made me your pawn and slave. You all have to die. Gu Qinsha shouted hysterically, but no one responded to him, and no one could hear a shout. Because this place was completely sealed, outsiders could not come in, and the people inside could not go out, either. Only Gu Qinsha was alone in an independent space. This was the seal, the most painful torture. Liu Baiwei knew that Gu Qinsha had not given up. He had colluded with the enemy and tried to mess things up. Imprisoning him like this was already letting him off easy, because she did not abolish all of his cultivation. After the shout, the ancient mystic's sand quieted down. Suddenly, an invisible thought pierced through time and space and entered his body. Civilization, spread, system, parasite. A battleship appeared in his mind. Mobile users, please visit M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 872. 1 Second to Remember 09, providing you with exciting reading. Chapter 869. Forming a net-crowned Prince Gu Xianxia was in despair, but a battleship suddenly appeared in his sea of consciousness. In an instant, endless information was transmitted to the depths of his soul, allowing him to understand the supreme power of the battleship. Ha! It's the crystallization of the highest wisdom of the prehistoric civilization. Now it's all in my sea of consciousness, allowing my cultivation to soar. I've grasped the civilization. There's always a way out. Crown Prince Gu Xianxia was overjoyed. He only felt the battleship in his mind move a little bit, and it sent out endless power. As the power changed, it moved violently and created an incredible change. His cultivation broke through layer by layer in an instant, reaching the heavenly venerable realm and then the heavenly longevity realm. It was a realm that countless people dreamed of, but he broke through so easily. This was a miracle, something that defied the heavens. Whoosh! His body flickered, and in the blink of an eye, he passed through the ceiling mark and left the Crown Prince Palace. Gu Xianxia, Lu Baiwei, everyone wait for me. When I'm completely familiar with the power of the battleship, it'll be your time of death. The prehistoric civilization is an existence that can challenge the heavens. In addition, the power of this battleship surpassed the heaven realm when it was at its peak. Crown Prince Gu Xianxia's voice was filled with overwhelming hatred. After I capture you, I'll grind your bones to ashes. No, that's too easy for you. After I suppress you, I'll make you reincarnate again and again. You'll beg for death, but you won't be able to. I'll let you enjoy endless pain for my pleasure. Crown Prince Gu Xianxia disappeared. He hid and was ready to make a comeback at any time. As he disappeared, Gu Xianxia, who was in the dragonless gourd, smiled. There's indeed a deep meaning. What's the matter? Asked Lu Baiwei. Although Lu Baiwei had become a celestial venerable and activated the mysterious origin in his body, his strength was almost invincible. However, he was still a little weaker than Gu Xianxia, who had also become a celestial venerable. I'm talking about Crown Prince Gu Xianxia. He's escaped, said Gu Xianxia. How is that possible? I set up a seal. How could he have escaped? Even the Sun Moon Lord Gu Tianxia couldn't help him. Lu Baiwei's mind moved. He really escaped. Did Gu Xianxia have a fortuitous encounter? Of course. He obtained the prehistoric civilization's battleship and the one God system. His power increased too much for us to control, so he escaped. Father made him the Crown Prince. The prehistoric civilization's battleship and the one God system chose him. With the battleship and the one God system, he will become a super giant in the future. Gu Xianxia seemed to have a card up his sleeve. This guy has been suppressed by us to the point that he's extremely angry and hysterical. Next, he will launch a series of revenge methods. However, his first target will definitely not be us, because the system already knows how powerful I am. It will definitely not allow the ancient mystical sand to fight us head-on. So, he must be looking for a pushover. For example, to find Gu Tianxia or to kill the heavenly kings. Then, we can develop calmly and watch the tigers fight. We can make the best preparations for the real disaster. The 36 years of the heavenly talisman are up. The real disaster has begun. Do you feel anything? Many things in the world have changed. Lu Baiwei asked Gu Xianxia. I felt it a long time ago. The heavenly Tao's restraint on the worlds has been reduced to the extreme. In other words, many of the previous cultivation rules will be overturned. Many cultivation barriers will become extremely easy. For example, the Tao realm. It was difficult for people to break through in the past, but now it's almost simple. In addition, the golden core realm, the spiritual power realm, the 23 changes reflecting the past, the God realm, the sage realm, and even the heavenly Lord realm, the heavenly life realm, and the heavenly origin realm will be easy to break through. 09, small, say net. 09, if I'm not wrong. There will soon be giants reaching the heavenly origin realm. In addition, heavenly Lord realm masters will also be born. They will not be as few as before. Gu Chansha secretly calculated the heavenly Tao and found that all the changes in the heavenly Tao seemed to be hidden. There was almost no monitoring of the world spacetime. The moment he became a heavenly lord, the heavenly Tao seemed to have disappeared. It was like a court. Suddenly, all the armies, bureaucrats, constables, and government offices disappeared. The world suddenly lost its restraint and order. What would happen to the world? The result was simple. The world would be thrown into chaos. Flames of war could be seen everywhere, and no one would know how many people would become emperors or kings. It was the same now. The heavenly Tao had lost its order, and the world was no longer under supervision. Countless people with hidden ambitions would rise up. In fact, many people in the divine prefecture would cultivate to a very high level, and they would have the ambition to seize power. Gu Chansha had to suppress the internal conflicts. The Central Plains divine prefecture, even Yanko, had never been a monolithic entity. People's hearts changed, and not even the heavenly Tao could control them. Naturally, Gu Chansha would not be able to completely control them. Of course, as his power increased, the world was changing. Furthermore, he did not want to control the hearts of people. He wanted to be a pioneer. He wanted to create an era that had never existed before, an era where humans could control the heavenly Tao. In addition, he wanted to break through the restraints of the heavenly Tao and expand the world without limit. This was what his Dragonless Heart Sutra was trying to do. The heavenly Tao isn't completely gone, he said. On the contrary, it gave up on supervising the myriad worlds in order to reign in its power and deliver a fatal blow to me, or perhaps to my father. Gu Chansha continued. In that case, I have to be very careful. Once the heavenly Tao makes its move, it won't give me a chance to survive. I'm not strong enough to fight the heavenly Tao. I need to advance my cultivation and gain enlightenment of the Tao of deathless and indestructible. It's too bad that the battleship and the one God system got away, she said. If we could refine them into the Dragonless Gourd, the situation would have changed, and we would have been able to fight the Emperor of Heaven. If the heavenly Tao reigns in its power to attack us, then it will have to rely on the Emperor of Heaven. Liu Baiwes said, however, I've searched everywhere. I've searched everyone in the Calming Immortal department, but I couldn't find the Emperor of Heaven or the other heavenly kings. As for Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, Jing Xiu, and Gu Hua, they seem to have disappeared. Xian Xin has also gone into hiding. Great Burning Heavenly King and Gu Tiansha are also hiding somewhere. Of course you can't find them, because these people have left the imperial court. They know that once I become a heavenly venerable, I won't be able to hide, so they left first. Gu Chansha said, they are now gathered in a mysterious place, planning and waiting for the right time. Or rather, waiting for our imperial court to have internal strife. Why would we have internal strife? Longevity God asked doubtfully. Our current strength is extremely tyrannical. The 360 common people's generals have finally become heavenly venerables, suppressing the world. Any ambitious people will be suppressed to the point that they don't dare to have any ideas. People's hearts will change, forever hard to fathom. Now that the heavenly Tao has lost its supervision, cultivation has become extremely easy, especially breaking through realms. Think about it. In the future, many experts will obtain fortuitous encounters and cultivate to the God realm, sage realm, and even heavenly venerable. Then their hearts will definitely change, and as their cultivation increases, so will their ambitions. Think about it. If there are thousands of heavenly venerables, tens of thousands of heavenly venerables, how will we manage them? But we can't suppress their advancement, so we will walk the same path as the heavenly Tao. Gu Qinsha frowned. This is indeed a big problem. The heavenly Tao has lost its supervision, shrinking its strength. In fact, it is handing the problem to us. Liu Baiwei said, but as long as we become stronger, we can still lead the world, lest there be unpredictable changes in the world. I also have some plans for this matter. Let's sweep away the unstable factors first. I must collect the 4 desolates, all of them into the dragonless gourd. Gu Qinsha said, once the 4 desolates are collected, the divine prefecture will be isolated. Once the divine prefecture is isolated, wanting to transform into the future heavenly court is almost impossible. Now, my true body is suppressed in the dragonless gourd, and the dragonless gourd hangs in the sky of the divine prefecture, suppressing the changes at any time, and then activating its power to collect the 4 desolates. I obtained almost 99% of the knowledge and wisdom of the prehistoric civilization and combined it with my Dragonless Heart Sutra to advance to Heavenly Venerable. I came up with this grand plan. After I collect the 4 desolates, I will collect the Divine Prefecture, all of them fusing into my Dragonless Gourd. This way, I will see how the ancient Heavenly Court will advance, and how the Emperor Heaven will appear. But collecting the 4 desolates is a big project, and I have to make arrangements. As he spoke, Gu Qinsha sat cross-legged in the Dragonless Gourd, sending out streams of power into the depths of the 4 desolates, as if he were spinning a spider's web. Once the web was finished, he would capture the 4 desolates in one fell swoop. Gu Changjian, Xian Xian, Jing Xiu, and Gu Hua had only obtained a recognition of the heart of the 4 wastelands. They were able to obtain the power of the 4 wastelands, which was why they looked very powerful. However, they had only obtained the recognition. They were like officials who had obtained the power bestowed by the emperor and could be taken back at any time. But now, Gu Qinsha was going to collect the true forms of the 4 desolates, which was beyond the heavenly primal stage. Gu Qinsha's true form sat there, gathering the 4 desolates. An energy current rushed out of his body, which transformed into a new version of himself. After I became a heavenly venerable, I sensed the existence of other endless treasures. Did you think you could hide them from my calculations? Even if it's the heavenly Tao, there will always be a time when 100 secrets slip up. I will gather all 36 treasures, open the gate to the heavenly realm, and obtain the heavenly emperor's throne. At that time, I don't believe that the heavenly emperor won't come out. Mobile users, please visit M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 873. 1 second to remember 09, providing you with exciting reading. Chapter 870. All endless Gu Qinsha now had 22 of the 36 endless treasures. In the beginning, he obtained the Infinity Umbrella from Fa Wuxian. Then, he obtained the 7 infinity treasures of the great Fun Heavenly King, making him 8. Then, he obtained Wan Hong's Infinity Cauldron, making him 9. After that, he also obtained the 12 infinity treasures of the 3 ministers, 8 marquises, and Fong Lin. In this way, he had 21 infinity treasures. In addition to the infinity heart, he had 22 infinity treasures. Therefore, there were 14 infinity treasures left. Jing Xiu's boundless river, Gu Zhan's boundless sword, Gu Changjian's boundless sword, and boundless blade had already been revealed. Following that, there were 11 more boundless treasures that had yet to be revealed. Gu Qinsha wanted to collect all 14 infinity treasures and put them into his body. The 36 infinity treasures were the key to controlling the heaven realm. From Gu Qinsha's point of view, the throne of the Emperor Heaven, the land of the Divine Land, and the entire heaven realm were closely related to each other. Everything was in the 36 infinity treasures. If the heaven realm was condensed, It would be an existence similar to the worship of the prehistoric civilization. It was not much different from the worship of the prehistoric civilization at its peak. Of course, it was now far more powerful than the worship of the prehistoric civilization. After all, the worship of the prehistoric civilization had encountered a catastrophe, and its strength was less than 1/10,000th of its original strength. And the heaven realm was now at its peak. Gu Chensha had already regarded the heaven realm as a magic treasure. In addition to collecting the four wilds, his greatest plan was to refine the heaven realm as well. At this moment, his vision had surpassed countless great existences. Whoosh! His incarnation landed in the land of the divine land. This was because he had already predicted the birth of the infinity treasures. After devouring the infinity heart, he had already integrated all the essence of the infinity treasures into his Dragonless Heart Sutra. In an instant, he could sense many subtle existences of the infinity treasures. Landing in the Fajo city of the divine land, Gu Chencha's avatar waved his hand. A crystal cracked open, and two people rolled out. One was the ancestor of heaven and earth, and the other was naturally the immortal lord. How do the two of you feel? Gu Chensha smiled and asked, "Are the two of you still not submitting to me? Or would you wait to submit to the imperial court?" Patriarch Heaven and Earth, the reason why I haven't destroyed the Black Heaven and Earth Gate yet is because I want all of you to submit to me and worship me so that I can make up for my mistakes. Right now, I am preparing to directly collect the four desolates. To you, the power of the four desolates might be inconceivable, but to me, it is nothing at all. If you don't submit, then don't blame me for demoting you to mortals. Gu Chensha wasn't threatening him. He just said it with a smile, as if it was a joke between friends. However, Patriarch Heaven and Earth and the Immortal Master were terrified when they heard that. They could already tell that Gu Chencha's strength and cultivation base were no longer something they could resist. Even though they were Heavenly Longevity Realm cultivators, they felt like children facing a true god in front of Gu Chensha. He could do whatever he wanted to him. Gu Chensha, what level has your strength reached? Patriarch Heaven and Earth asked after a moment of silence. A level that you can't understand. Gu Chensha said casually, for example, the Tai mystical sect has been following me for a long time. I'll give them a big gift now. As he spoke, streams of light gathered around Gu Chensha. After 3 breaths worth of time, they condensed into a human figure. The human figure exuded a formidable aura. It was as though he had been resurrected from the dead. 09, small, say net. 09, Heavenly Lord Tai. Patriarch Heaven and Earth exclaimed. Yes, Heavenly Lord Tai, the ancestor of the Tai mystical sect. I've resurrected their ancestor. Gu Chensha said, Heavenly Lord Tai, have you digested the memory that I've passed to you? Thank you, Your Highness. After Heavenly Lord Tai was resurrected, a look of realization appeared on his face. Your Highness has protected our Tai mystical sect all these years, making our orthodoxy more and more powerful. I've already understood that it's meaningless to maintain our orthodoxy. It's better to integrate into the Yonko and make Tai mystical sect the world, the imperial court, and a part of the country. If that's the case, it doesn't mean that your Tai mystical sect will disappear. Tai mystical sect can be a clan, a group, and a group under the imperial court, Gu Chensha said. These are some methods of the prehistoric civilization. We can learn from them. Yes, I'll arrange it right now so that Tai mystical sect can complete the conversion from ideology to reality. Old Man Tai bowed towards Gu Chensha and took a deep look at Patriarch Heaven and Earth. Patriarch Heaven and Earth, we've fought against each other for a long time, but we were used by the 3 heavenly lords. Now that the 3 heavenly lords have been subdued and become the spies of the imperial court, what else can you struggle for? After saying that, he left to reorganize Tai mystical sect. I'm willing to submit to you. Patriarch Heaven and Earth knew that the current situation was more powerful than him. Gu Chencha's power made him feel extremely desperate. He used to be a prehistoric magnate even earlier than the three heavenly lords. After being resurrected, he got rid of the restraint of the Lord of Sun and Moon, Gu Tiansha, and established a great alliance. But now, this alliance was easily destroyed by Gu Tiansha. It was already shattered, causing him to feel disheartened. As he spoke, Patriarch Heaven and Earth knelt down sincerely and began to worship. Very good, that's not bad. Gu Tiansha sensed the power of Patriarch Heaven and Earth's worship. You're sensible. Now that you've submitted to me, hurry up and go back to preside over the entire heavenly sect of heaven and earth, joining the imperial court, pacifying and suppressing the hearts of the people in heavenly sect of heaven and earth. 3 days. I'll only give you 3 days. If you can't pacify the hearts of the people in heavenly sect of heaven and earth, even all the heavenly sects in East Wilderness, I'll extract your cultivation base and create a king of people to preside over this. Yes, yes, yes. Patriarch Heaven and Earth hurriedly nodded and disappeared in a flash. Finally, it was the Immortal Lord's turn. Gu Tiansha looked at her. How about it, Immortal Lord? Are you going to resist stubbornly? Do I even have the ability to resist now? Even the prehistoric civilization behind me was almost captured by you. I think that the prehistoric civilization won't be able to escape from your hands sooner or later. But now, I'm afraid you guys aren't so optimistic either. The heavenly Tao has given up its supervision over the infinite worlds, and the world of chaos has truly descended. Even I feel like I've lost a lot of restraints. If I continue cultivating like this, I'll definitely break through to divine primordial realm. I also have a feeling that the people with the bloodline of the divine prefecture in your country will also cultivate to an extremely high realm. Perhaps in 1 or 2 years, there will be a large number of God-level experts, saints, and even heavenly venerables. Those experts won't be restrained by you at all. When the world is in chaos, what will you do? Unless you suppress your cultivation, I think there will be internal problems. I've thought about this a long time ago. Gu Tiansha said to the Immortal Lord, that's not something you need to think about. You have 2 choices now. One is to submit, and the other is to be demoted. I'll give you 3 breaths time because I don't have that much time to waste on you. All right, I choose. The Immortal Lord seemed to have made up his mind. I choose to become a normal person. I will never submit. Kill me if you have the guts. Good. You're determined. Gu Tiansha was a little surprised. He looked at the Immortal Lord and said, it seems like you don't have high hopes for us. You don't have high hopes for the Heavenly Talisman Emperor either. You still have high hopes for the Emperor of Heaven. That's right, Gu Tiansha. Your imperial court has a fatal weakness, the Immortal Lord said. As you wish. Gu Tiansha couldn't be bothered to say anything more to the Immortal Lord. Since she had made her own choice, then he would strip her of everything. As he spoke, Gu Tiansha pointed with his finger. Suddenly, a light wrapped around the Immortal Lord. A pained expression appeared on the Immortal Lord's face. All of her cultivation was extracted in an instant. In just a few blinks of an eye, the Immortal Lord had turned into a frail woman. She had transformed from a powerful primordial creature that had dominated the ancient world for countless years into a mortal woman without any cultivation base. Then, the extracted cultivation turned into the Immortal Lord, but she was the common life king. It was just like how Gu Tiansha refined the North Star Emperor and turned it into the common life king. Immortal Lord, this is the real you. You're just a coward now. Gu Tiansha pointed at the common life king, who looked exactly like the Immortal Lord, and said, you're even more cowardly than the Heaven and Earth Patriarch. I can't imagine it. The Heaven and Earth Patriarch is the real coward. I can see the real situation in the future. Even you don't understand. No, actually, you know you're going to fail, but you still want to die. You hold on. I'd rather lose all my cultivation than to follow your bad example. That's the real secret of the highest level. The Immortal Lord didn't show any weakness. Gu Tiansha's actions are destined to fail. You should reflect on yourself as an ordinary person for a period of time. Gu Tiansha waved his hand. The Immortal Lord felt the world spin. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a courtyard. There were many ordinary people living in the courtyard. She saw Chu Feng immediately. He was the heavenly king of Jin. The current Chu Feng had no power. He only had some simple martial arts. When he saw the immortal lord, he couldn't help but laugh maniacally. Who would have thought that your cultivation would be crippled too, immortal lord? That Gu Chunsha is really crazy. He won't even let off his own people. But don't worry. As long as he doesn't kill us, we'll have a chance to return to our peak. Seems like you're extremely loyal to the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven has already been born. He won't mistreat you. Mobile users, please browse M. Read for a better reading experience. Chapter 874. Chu Feng, you're the grand Jin heavenly king, yet you've ended up like this. Your heavenly king origin has been stripped, and the primordial dragon gate has been devoured. However, you don't look discouraged at all. Instead, you're getting more and more confident. Why is that? Could it be that you've received pointers from the Emperor Heaven King? The immortal master asked curiously. I'm the heavenly king, and I'll always be the heavenly king. This is also the mission the heavenly Tao has entrusted to me. Chu Feng laughed sinisterly. The 36th year of the heavenly talisman has arrived. You've also sensed that all the shackles between heaven and earth have disappeared. This way, experts will emerge one after another, especially those with the bloodline of the divine prefecture. They're all proud sons of heaven, and each of them will cultivate to an extremely high realm. Moreover, their minds will also change. They won't listen to the immortal Jingxian's lies. As long as we wait, the world will descend into chaos, and these people will kill each other to weaken their strength. If the world descends into chaos, and we've lost all our strength, I'm afraid we'll die. The immortal master frowned. You'll die, but I won't. Chu Feng sized up the immortal master. But seeing that you're not in cahoots with that bastard Gu Qinsha, I can help you this once. Just stay here, and I'll tell you what to do when the time comes. Got it? Then I'll thank Lord Heavenly King here. The immortal master really seemed like a weak woman at this moment as she bowed to Chu Feng. The human heart is truly unfathomable. Gu Qinsha saw this scene. In the end, the immortal master is still my father's woman. She actually doesn't believe us and is instead respectful to that crippled Chu Feng. Is she being cheap or something? As he spoke, he shook his head and looked toward the distant Iron Mountain of legalism. The legalists were the #1 aristocratic family of the divine prefecture and had existed for close to 10,000 years. Even though they'd been severely suppressed in the recent decades, they were still a centipede that never died. This was especially true after the resurrection of the Dharma Saint. He contacted the demon race and created a dimensional realm. Then, he formed an alliance with the heaven and earth ancestor and joined forces with Wu Dankong. They stirred up trouble everywhere in the dark and always had the intention of overthrowing the divine prefecture. The Dharma Saint cultivation base had already reached the heaven longevity stage, surpassing many of the old-timers. The last time Gu Chansha entered the black heaven and earth gate, he grabbed Wu Dankong's heavenly sacrificial talisman and then went to deal with the patriarch of heaven and earth and the immortal master. After that, he went to the ruins of the prehistoric civilization and did not find the Dharma Saint. Dharma Saint was originally with Wu Dankong, but he seemed to have heard some news and escaped without a trace. He did not even return to his legalism lair. However, Gu Qinsha didn't come to deal with the legalists this time. Even if the legalists had already formed a dimensional realm, he didn't need to personally take action. This was because, let alone a dimensional realm, even a boundless world could be destroyed by Gu Chansha with a flick of his finger. He had come here because he had sensed the reincarnation of the boundless treasure in the Dharma prefecture. Now that he had cultivated a celestial body, nothing could hide from his calculations. He walked on the streets of the Dharma prefecture, observing the local customs. The Dharma prefecture was named after the Dharma Saint. Now that the legalists had collapsed, it had a huge impact on them. In the land of the Dharma prefecture, Gu Chansha could feel the mark of the legalists gradually dissipating. The Dharma saint had created the code of all ages and started the trend of an era. For thousands of years, the imperial court had more or less used his laws to govern the country. As a result, the Dharma saint had amassed a lot of destiny and power. His accumulation could not be said to be weak. Moreover, he had broken free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao and resurrected himself. Gu Qinshan knew that he still had a lot of destiny left, which was why he had been able to escape from him this time. However, this was just child's play. Besides the Emperor of Heaven, Gu Qinshan did not consider anyone a match. The matter of the Dharma saint could be resolved at any time. The legalists are finished. When Gu Qinshan walked into a tea house, he heard a lot of discussion. Many people had gathered here to spread the news and discuss countermeasures. There were no waiters in the tea house. Instead, there were mechanical puppets. They were vivid and lifelike, walking as if they were flying. These mechanical puppets were exactly the same as humans, except that they had no intelligence. However, when they worked, they did not know fatigue. Now, many places among the people used these mechanical puppets. Even the commoners of the most ordinary families could buy a mechanical puppet to work. This was sold by the imperial court. Of course, these low-level mechanical puppets could only work and not fight. If they wanted to fight, they would have to buy more expensive combat puppets. However, ordinary families could not afford them. This was some technology from the prehistoric civilization, and all of it had been accepted by the new Dragonless Cabinet. The Celestial Commerce Department and the Celestial Designer Institute had already become history. Now, the official organization of the Imperial Court was the Dragonless Cabinet. The legalists are indeed finished. In the past few days, the Imperial Court has already begun to send experts into the legalist dimensional realm to conduct a large-scale search. Just a few hours ago, they captured hundreds of thousands of legalist disciples and locked them up one by one to be judged for their crimes of rebellion. That's not all. The legalists have also colluded with the demons in an attempt to carry out some spirit demon plan. That is to wipe out all humans and then merge with the demons to give birth to a new race that will be controlled by the legalists. Someone said, "This is a heinous crime. The people of the legalists should all die. Only by destroying their souls can they vent their anger." That's not necessarily true. If you want to pin a crime on someone, you can always find a pretext. Right now, the Imperial Court has established the Dragonless Cabinet, abolished the Crown Prince, and purged the aristocratic families in an attempt to reorganize the hearts of the people. The legalists are naturally the first. As a great sage of humanity, the Dharma saint has a lot of merit, so we can't kill them all. Someone frowned and said, "I think the former calming immortal department, which is the current Dragonless Cabinet, is a little complacent. This isn't a long-term plan. Abolishing the Crown Prince and the Heavenly Designer Institute is equivalent to abolishing the rules left behind by the Heavenly Talisman Emperor. I'm afraid there will be a great disaster. Keep your voice down. The world is now under strict surveillance. Our every move is under the eyes and ears of the People's Marshal. If you act like this, you'll be dissatisfied with the Imperial Court. I'm afraid there will be a great disaster." Someone hurriedly stopped him. "It's fine. The Imperial Court hasn't gone that far, and they haven't been punished for their words in recent years," the person said proudly. "This is the ideology of the former calming immortal department. If they change their minds and come to arrest me because of my words, then they will really be going against the law and will not be far from destruction. Don't say any more." Someone slammed the table and stood up. "Junior, what do you know? The Imperial Court is unprecedentedly enlightened and prosperous. The People's Marshal is upright and strict, always handling matters impartially and without any selfishness. It's millions of times better than any Imperial Court in the past. Everyone can cultivate now, and there's even hope of advancing to the highest realm. It's nothing like before, trembling under the tyranny of the demon race and almost being wiped out several times. Now you're actually criticizing the Imperial Court, which means you're dissatisfied with me. If you say another word, I'll definitely kill you." Where did this mad dog come from? Do you think I, Gao Xin Yuan, will be afraid of you?" The person who criticized the Imperial Court also stood up and laughed coldly. I'd like to see what you're capable of." As they spoke, the two of them were at daggers drawn and were about to attack. In the unseen world, there seemed to be a power that felt the murderous intent and murderous aura. In this tea house, a beam of light suddenly descended and then spread out, as if it was some kind of warning. This is the power of the Imperial Court's heavenly net. It forbids fighting. If you want to attack, I'm afraid you'll be punished by the Imperial Court. Someone was familiar with the meaning of the light. The Imperial Court's power is now, indeed, monitoring the Four Wilds and the Divine Prefecture. Not a single place is overlooked. Someone coldly observed without saying a word. The person who criticized the Imperial Court was called Gao Yuanxin. He coldly snorted and left the tea house. The others also continued to drink tea and chat. After Gao Yuanxin left the tea house, he returned to his residence. This residence was a tall building with a full 100 floors. Tens of thousands of people lived in it. Now, there were such tall buildings everywhere in the Divine Prefecture. Because of the explosive growth of the population, the land area was not enough. Although the Four Wilds were large, many people in the Divine Prefecture were not willing to leave the Divine Prefecture to go to the Four Wilds. This was because everyone knew that only people born in the Divine Prefecture had extremely powerful bloodlines, which would be of great benefit to their future cultivation. If they left the Divine Prefecture and went to the Four Wilds, then their descendants would lose the bloodline of the Divine Prefecture. Therefore, after the news spread, countless people poured into the Divine Prefecture, causing the population of the Divine Prefecture to skyrocket again. The prices of various kinds of land also rose steadily. The Imperial Court really does have a lot of supporters, but I feel like I'm in great danger. After Gao Yuanxin returned to his residence, he was very unhappy. The rulers of the Celestial Communist Bureau, such as Liu Baiyue, Gu Qinsha, Zhu Viye, and Gu Huasha, are all very fake. Forget it. I don't care about that. I just need to focus on cultivation. Hopefully, I can reach a very high level. I don't think I can see the future clearly. But now that so many people have broken through, it seems like cultivation has become much easier. Gao Yuanxin's ears twitched slightly, and he heard the sound of many spirit chi explosions resounding one after another in the building he lived in. Someone was breaking through to the Dao realm. What? Gao Yuanxin was a bit surprised. The youngest son of the Wang family, who lives on the 54th floor, is only 9 years old. He just broke through to the Dao realm? How long has he been cultivating? As he listened, an aura appeared above Gao Yuanxin's head. Within that aura, a magical treasure appeared. It looked like an eyeball. The endless eye. All of a sudden, someone appeared in Gao Yuanxin's room. This person was wearing a long robe, and his entire body seemed transparent. When he appeared, Gao Yuanxin could sense it, and his eyes snapped open. Who are you? The reincarnation of the endless eye. I finally found it. The transparent robe said, "You're in danger right now. The Imperial Court could capture you at any moment and take your life-bound magical treasure. Come with me. I'll take you to a safe place." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.